Albeit a little bit of a warm afternoon here from downtown St. Louis. We're getting you set for the middle game of this three-game weekend series. Some interleague baseball here from Busch Stadium, the Texas Rangers and the St. Louis Cardinals. Good afternoon. Glad as always you can join us for Major League Baseball on FS1. Aaron Goldsmith alongside CJ Nikowski. These two teams today with a lot of history, that's for sure. And for the Texas Rangers right now, well, the class of the American League, they've got a chance today to win what would be a franchise record 9 consecutive series. Meanwhile, for the St. Louis Cardinals, well, they've won the toast of this division. They've won the National League Central each of the last 3 seasons. This year trying to prove they can win at home and trying to chase the Chicago Cubs. And CJ, both these teams, they have something in common. They both share franchise players on their way to Cooperstown. Adrian Beltre at third base for the Rangers, Yadier Molina behind home plate for the Cardinals.
Absolutely, two of the best that we have seen in Major League Baseball. But all the talk recently in this game has been about the young players. We have here Ledmus Diaz in St. Louis, Stephen Piscotty, Jurickson Profar in Texas. A lot of great young players, Mazara as well. But what about these two guys? You mentioned it, cornerstone guys, both headed to the Hall of Fame for me. Yadier Molina in his 13th season at the Major League level. Adrian Beltre, 6th in Texas, 19th overall. This guy has been an absolute staple in Major League Baseball, one of the best that we have ever seen at the third base position. We could talk about young players all day long, but it is about having those veterans that bring those young players along right now. And for both of these franchises, that's what they're going to need as they try to contend in 2016.
As we take a look at Jeff Bannister, last year's American League Manager of the Year, and right now the Texas Rangers 43-25. They've won 4 in a row. And right now the best team in the American League and one of the best teams in all of baseball. The Rangers winning last night in Game 1 behind Cole Hamels, a 1-0 shutout. On the other side, you've got Cardinals manager Mike Matheny, who has been here in St. Louis since 2012. Both of these managers, huge proponents of culture, which has been such a trend in the game in recent managerial hirings, and we've seen that front and center in both the hiring of Bannister and also the former Cardinal catcher Mike Matheny. We'll take a look now at the Texas Rangers starting lineup. It leads off with right fielder Shin-Soo Choo, who is playing in only his 11th game of the season after a couple of stints on the disabled list. Then Ian Desmond, the former shortstop, now in center field for the Rangers, his first season in Texas. Nomar Mazara, the rookie sensation in left. Adrian Beltre, just talking about him at third base. Prince Fielder getting his 3rd consecutive start at first base, something he has not done so far this season. Then Odor and Jurickson Profar. Profar out the last 2 seasons, getting his first start this year at shortstop, with Elvis Andrus getting a breather. Robinson Chirinos catching, and Nick Martinez, today's starting pitcher. Carlos Martinez on the other side, getting the start today for the St. Louis Cardinals. And we take a look at the Lowe's pitcher profile. CJ, Carlos Martinez has been one of the best in the National League over the last few weeks.
He has, and he's really kind of emerging into a top of the rotation role here in St. Louis with the Cardinals. And one thing that has changed for him is he's getting a little smarter, a little bit more mature, trusting contact, trusting his defense. The strikeout rate is actually down, and so if you look at the raw numbers, you wonder, is he pitching as good? He is, because he was tired of not being able to get deep into games, seeing himself in triple digits in the 6th inning. Mike Matheny, they talked to him about that. He's become much more conservative with his pitches, not trying to strike everybody out, which is a tough thing to do when you have the kind of stuff that Carlos Martinez has.
And one of the top ground ball double play artists in the game. The story here today defensively for the Cardinals, Colton Wong, just recalled from AAA Memphis, was not down there long. Normally at second base, making his first start in center field for manager Mike Matheny, as Randall Grichuk was optioned to AAA Memphis just a couple of hours ago. Molina, as usual, behind home plate, the slugging first baseman. Adams at first. Carpenter began the season at third. He's back at second base with Ledmus Diaz, one of the best rookie hitters in the game at shortstop. We get underway outside to Shin-Soo Choo, who begins things for Texas. Rangers have won 4 in a row. They won last night behind Cole Hamels, and a solo home run. That was it. It was a very National League style game in interleague play last night.
Certainly did feel that way, and the home run that Odor hit was blasted to center field, but a very well pitched game on both sides for both of these teams. Thinking about the Texas Rangers, how happy they are to have Shin-Soo Choo back. You see the 200 batting average. It's early, but getting on base, that is why they brought him in. That's why they gave him that big contract.
Jumps on this pitch into right field and drops it in front of Piscotty. So Choo, who last night had his 21-game on base streak snapped, is aboard a right away in his first at bat here to begin today's game. CJ, tell us your 4 keys to the game for this one today.
Well, I mentioned looking at, first of all, the Texas Rangers. The pen is mightier. They're going to rely on their bullpen today with Nick Martinez, probably only going to be able to get maybe 4 innings. If they're lucky, they'll take it. The bullpen has been well rested, so they'll rely heavily on their bullpen today. And we talked about it already a little bit. The new look D, the defense here for the St. Louis Cardinals. Matt Carpenter at second base, Johnny Peralta at third, and Colton Wong getting that opportunity, maybe trying to reinvent himself, even though he's still very young, in center field, or at least for the time being, finding himself a home in center field where he can get some steady playing time.
First pitch strike to Ian Desmond. Now you mentioned the defense for the Cardinals entering today the second most errors in baseball, trailing only the Reds, with whom they share the division. But Mike Matheny's saying that the defense has been much better lately.
Getting improved, and I think a lot of that has been on the fact that they have a young shortstop in Diaz, and a guy getting comfortable at the big league level, maybe trying to do too much. Sometimes you're going to see that, but there's some positives to look at as well. Their defense efficiency is at .692, and essentially all that means is what percentage of balls that are put in play do you turn into outs. They're a little bit above league average, which is about .690, so that's some good things that are happening, like you said, moving in the right direction right now.
Chu at first base after a leadoff single. Desmond has been scalding hot for the Rangers. A rough month of April, but has been hitting nearly .350 since the first day of May. And you can see the numbers up from last year. The strikeouts had gone up each of the last couple of seasons for Desmond. This year, CJ, when he makes contact, you can hear it blocks away.
I think what is amazing too, first of all, he's going to the outfield, which is something he wanted to do, not only in the outfield but now playing a premier position where they can put him in center field and he can do it well. He got off to a very slow start here with the Texas Rangers, and there were some concerns, and since then he has been terrific and reestablishing value going into free agency now next year, knowing he can play center or go play shortstop for you. Those are premier defender positions. Ian Desmond has done a really nice job here so far for the Texas Rangers.
Hitting nearly 400 with runners on base, and he's got Chu at first. Full count to Desmond, as we just saw a pretty early mound visit to check in on Carlos Martinez, now 24 years old, out of the Dominican Republic, who, if you look at the numbers, CJ in many ways has been the best starting pitcher for Mike Matheny this year, but the rotation for the Cardinals really beginning to come around.
And it's important too, because some big names with some good track records, as we see this walk to Ian Desmond. Carlos Martinez right there, even though a slow start here, right there with the best of his team. Adam Wainwright, Michael Wacha, guys that have not pitched quite up to par yet this season. Carlos Martinez has been a nice steady force for them.
He puts the first two on, the single by Chu, now the walk to Desmond, and it brings in Nomar Mazara. Mazara named the American League Rookie of the Month in April, and then again in May. We'll see what this month of June holds for Mazara, who last night snapped an 0 for 23 slide, finished the game with a couple of base hits. Looks at strike one.
You mentioned how strong Carlos Martinez is with double plays. It's a 57% ground ball rate. That's one of the best in Major League Baseball among starters, and that's how he has to think, especially as you're facing a lefty, throwing that good fastball down and away, trying to get that ground ball and maybe just get yourself 2 outs on one pitch.
Broken bat, little squibber. Peralta the scoop, and to first base in time.
Well, you're certainly not going to sacrifice bunt with a guy like Nomar Mazara, but in some senses you'll take this. 2 runners moved up into scoring position where the Rangers have been so strong. First time through the lineup, you see the really nice play there by Johnny Peralta, who did not say 2 words at all, according to Mike Matheny, about moving over to third base, a team guy, and really now helping this team out as he goes to the hot corner.
Was supposed to be the opening day shortstop. A thumb injury in spring training resulted in thumb surgery, and now has come back and has been at third. Infield in for Beltre. And that comes in, will load the bases. Beltre smoked at 97.
Certainly no intent there from Carlos Martinez, but
He is struggling a little bit so far in this first inning with the command of the fastball on his arm side. So that means into a righty, away from a lefty has been a little bit of an issue. See, that's a two-seam fastball that's just running and catches Beltre in the tricep, and that cannot feel good.
Very vintage Beltre, though, acting like nothing happened.
No, an absolute professional, one of the best in the game that we have.
About as tough as they come. So Chu at third, Desmond at second base, and Beltre at first. So a couple of base runners that have reached without picking up a base hit for Texas early, and here is Prince Fielder. Only one grand slam for Fielder in his career. A little surprising.
I thought it was interesting, Jeff Bannister talking about Prince Fielder playing first base while they have this interleague series and thinking about trying to get him going, maybe get him a little bit more engaged instead of the DH role where you're just taking your 4 at-bats. You got to be alert, you got to be into it for a full 9 innings, and maybe this will be the way they get him going.
Up the middle. Easy step on second from Diaz, and Martinez is able to wiggle out of the top of the first inning. Loads the bases up with a single, a walk, and a hit batter, and nobody comes in for Texas. For the St. Louis Cardinals, as no surprise, Carlos Martinez gets a double play ball to end the top of the first. We start the bottom of the first inning. Matt Carpenter, a season best 10-game hitting streak he brings into this one today. Colton Wong just recalled getting the start today in center field. Then Matt Holliday, in his 8th season with St. Louis, will bat third. Piscotty is in right field. Matt Adams at first base. Johnny Peralta getting the start at third base. Molina, Diaz, and then the pitcher, Carlos Martinez, as we take a look at Nick Martinez and the Lowe's pitcher profile.
And like I mentioned in the open, interesting to see here for Nick Martinez. The Rangers would love to see him give them maybe around 4 innings. He was starting in the minor leagues, but came up and had been in the bullpen. Just 2 games pitched at the big league level so far. Not an overpowering guy. The fastball will sit around 91. He uses his slider as well as his changeup mostly. He's got a curveball in there as well. So it's a 4-pitch mix, but really for this Texas Rangers team, just trying to get him through 4, maybe 5 would be a really nice treat for this team.
2-1 now to Carpenter. Carpenter on base 4 times last night. In 4 plate appearances, a couple of walks, 2 base hits as well. Martinez helping to fill in for the injured Yu Darvish. Of course, Tommy John then being activated. A handful of starts for Jeff Bannister. Now back on the disabled list, something that the Rangers do not feel is all that serious. Expect to have him back shortly. And the count still 2-2 on Carpenter. Now the Cardinals opened up a homestand, this homestand on Tuesday, having won a season best 5 games in a row, including a sweep last weekend in Pittsburgh against their division rival Pirates. But now the Cardinals have lost 3 straight, including being swept in 2 games by the Astros. Slicing the opposite way. Mazzara having to give chase, and he's got enough room to make the catch for out number 1. Jurickson Profar getting the start today for the Rangers at shortstop for the first time this year. Elvis Andrus getting a breather. We take a look at the rest of the defense for the Rangers today. Fielder at first base for the 3rd straight game, something he has not done this year. Odor, the mainstay, at second base. Beltre, as we talked about, on the hot corner. Mazzara, who we have seen so much in right field this year, is in left field once again for Jeff Bannister, with Desmond in center and Chu in right.
So interesting to see the flexibility. We just look at that Texas Rangers defense you talked about, Mazzara, and here comes Ian Desmond playing center, so much so that True plays right, and now here we see Colton Wong coming up. Flexibility seems to be becoming more and more important in Major League Baseball. Managers love having that ability to play platoons or move guys around a little bit more. It used to be where you got locked into a position, you wanted to stay there, but what's more important is that you stay in the big leagues, and in the case of Colton Wong, that means moving to center field. For Ian Desmond, that meant taking a chance and going to the outfield after he had kind of a rough year defense, at least the first half, at shortstop with the Washington Nationals, and he's been fantastic out there. We've seen it work in these cases. We've seen it not work when Hanley Ramirez went to left field last year for the Boston Red Sox. So he's trying first this year and doing a nice job for them.
Stays at 0-2 to Colton Wong. And managers love the versatility, CJ, there's no question. But from a player standpoint, there can be some guys who don't necessarily like being, well, a quote-unquote platoon guy, or a positional player that will play all over the place. Not so much a platoon, but a utility player that one day you might see him in the infield, one day you might see him in the outfield. But managers love it.
Consistency is certainly desired amongst players, whether you're a position player or relief pitcher, whatever it may be. But you look at Ben Zobrist. I think he's kind of the poster boy right now in Major League Baseball and what your career can become if you show some flexibility.
Long run for Mazzara. They're in plenty of time for round number 2. 2 up, 2 down for Nick Martinez. Now facing Matt Holliday, looking for his first hit on this homestand. 0 for his last 10. After homering in back-to-back 3-hit games to end the recent road trip for the Cardinals. Now we talked about Nick Martinez getting the start today, his first of the season for Texas. He is no stranger to the Rangers rotation. He's made at least 20 starts for Texas each of the last 2 years, but has spent the bulk of this year with AAA Round Rock.
Nick Martinez had a pretty good year last year. He made those 21 starts and had 3 appearances out of the bullpen ERA just under 4. Very serviceable.
Holliday plugs the gap. And with 2 outs, Matt Holliday takes a wide turn, but will circle back to first base. Cardinals have their first hit. Two-out base hit extends the bottom of the first for St. Louis.
You see the replay here. Slider that Nick Martinez wanted a little bit more on the corner, sits in the middle of the plate. Matt Holliday still has it. One of the few maybe long contracts that has worked out where he has been pretty productive. Still hits the ball very hard for this club. 36 years old. There's a team option next year. We'll see what the Cardinals ultimately want to do, but a good at bat there by Matt Holliday.
That brings in Stephen Piscotty.
And you look at these splits over the last 2 years. He broke into the big leagues last year. Just enamored by the consistency so far. You saw the 63 games, the 62 games, and how consistent the numbers have been. No sophomore slump just yet for Stephen Piscotty, which we see so often with young players. Some guys will make a splash. The league learns you. There's an adjustment period, and then you have to make some adjustments. to pitchers that have now changed their game plan, but it hasn't happened. This guy has been unbelievably consistent. Mike Matheny says he is always eager to learn, always asking questions, and just really strives to be great.
Chu coming in for it and is able to reach out and make the catch. Holiday left stranded after a 2-out single. 3 fly ball outs from the right arm of Nick Martinez. We're through an inning scoreless here from St. Louis. Here inside Busch Stadium today. Rougned Odor, the second baseman for Texas, leads off the top of the second. Carlos Martinez allowed 3 base runners in the first. Did not look sharp. A walk, a hit batter, also gave up a single to begin the ball game off the bat of Shin-Soo Choo, but was able to get out of it with a double play ball. That pitch count for Martinez looked like it was about to get out of hand in the first inning, but was able to escape with just 15 pitches thrown.
And that's that value of having that really good sinker and being able to generate ground balls as he gets Prince Fielder to hit into that double play right where the shift had him. And there's that confidence too that Carlos Martinez now has, knowing he can do that, knowing he can back off a little bit and locate that fastball and get that ground ball that can get you out of an inning.
2-2. Now last night it was a close game in game 1. 1-0 was the final score, and it was one big swing from Rougned Odor, his 13th on the season, and it was not cheap, CJ.
It certainly was not. This guy's been a lot of fun to watch. He's made the news maybe for some other reasons and a little bit of an issue that he had with the Toronto Blue Jays, but this guy could swing it. He has become, for me, at least knocking on the door, becoming a superstar in the league. They love him in Texas. They love his attitude. When he first came up, very, very comfortable, very, very sure of himself. And that's what it takes in Major League Baseball. You cannot come up timid, and Rougned Odor is anything but. He's done a really nice job for the Rangers.
Well, they bypassed AAA, made the jump right from AA to the big leagues. Came up at 20 years old. He's only 22.
It's amazing how young this game gets, and did really well. And then the following year actually struggled a little bit. They sent him back down, and Jeff Bannister told him, hey, let's get back to where you were, because he started to kind of tuck it in a little bit. I think some of that outward confidence he thought maybe was rubbing opponents and teammates the wrong way. He said, absolutely not. That is who you are. You have to be who you are. They sent him down for a little bit. He came back. He took it well. and he's been very solid ever since.
I think you followed that advice, safe to say. Making Martinez work here. Ninth pitch will be coming up. Again, here comes a 2-2. Now, we talked about the role that Carlos Martinez has been on recently. His last start, 2 outs shy of a complete game. He ended up going a career best 8 1/3 innings in Pittsburgh. He threw 122 pitches, the most of his career. And he's thrown a lot here to Odor to begin the second. Take a look at his line his last time out. It was remarkable. You mentioned his velocity, only 5 strikeouts, and one of those to the opposing pitcher for a guy who hit 101 in his last start.
But he'll take the 8+ innings every time, as opposed to racking up maybe 10 or 11 strikeouts but only going 6 1/3. That's some real value, especially in Major League Baseball today, where we don't see complete games hardly at all. The St. Louis Cardinals have just 1 on the year, and it's a point of pride now, maybe now more than ever, for a starter to be able to get deep in the game because it's become so rare.
Almost never happens. Just ask Derek Lilliquist, pitching coach for the Cardinals. And Odor has spoiled 6 pitches with 2 strikes, and the 12th pitch coming. Or the same.
There are 6 teams in the National League right now that do not have a complete game. The Giants, far and away, are killing it in that category. 5 for them this year, but the top of that rotation is so solid, and Johnny Cueto and Madison Bumgarner, who never wants to come out of a game. Jeff Samardzija the other night, but it is a rarity these days.
Hard hit grounder. Carpenter with the backhand. Now Odor, after seeing 13 pitches from Martinez, ends up grounding out to second base. A guy who is not known much at all for his ability to extend an at-bat, or at least see many pitches. Now, baseball's 2 biggest summer events back-to-back: the T-Mobile Home Run Derby on ESPN July 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern, and the very next night, don't miss baseball's biggest stars at the 87th All-Star Game presented by MasterCard, July 12th on Fox. Coverage begins at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A very laborious out number 1, to say the least, for Martinez, now facing Profar. Straightaway center field, the first chance for Colton Wong. That's exactly what you want to have happen, isn't it?
I tell you what, I mean, it looks like a routine fly ball, but that is a big league pop-up if I've ever seen one. You're not going to see very many fly balls to that deep a center that are going to go that high. And here's Colton Wong. Good movement on the feet, turns one way, then the other. He's a great athlete. We know that. He plays second base. We know that he can run. But just to go out in center field, it's not an automatic, but you'll take that routine one to start it off. He certainly looked very comfortable. What'll be fun to watch is how will he do on the one in the gap, the one that's hit hard, the one that's hit over his head. Those are when the challenges really start to come, and we'll get to see what kind of center fielder Colton Wong can be.
So you are pleased with his route efficiency on that, CJ?
I think so. I mean, ultimately, if I'm on his team, I'm pleased that he caught the ball. Route efficiency is very neat. Try to put a number on it. I don't care if it's 70 or 100, just catch the ball.
Get it in the glove. 0-2 quickly to Chirinos, the Rangers catcher. Chirinos has missed a healthy amount of time this year, was on the DL after taking a Garrett Richards fastball off the forearm. And he's caught looking at 87 miles an hour, the first strikeout for Martinez, and a quick, tidy and clean 1-2-3 top of the second. 116th U.S. Open from the historic Oakland Country Club continues. The conclusion of the third round begins at 7 a.m. Eastern on FS1. Final round coverage begins after that only on Fox, or you can watch it all live on Fox Sports Go. Some beautiful conditions in Oakland today after the grounds crew working overtime earlier in the week. A lot of rain in the area. Matt Adams leads off the Cardinals second.
Matt Adams having a really nice year. As you see the numbers there for the St. Louis Cardinals. Doing also a really nice job, surprisingly, against lefties. He's a guy that you'd like to platoon as he tries to beat the shift on that ground ball.
Strong throw from Beltre. 2 pitches and Nick Martinez gets his first out. And his first out today that has come on the ground.
One thing about Adrian Beltre, so good at third base. You see the shift there. Matt Adams takes a pitch away, tries to hit it away. Adrian Beltre so smooth. That is not an easy hop when you're backhanding like that and catching it on the way up. It makes it look routine.
First pitch to Johnny Peralta, and it's poured in for a strike. Now Peralta coming off just his second hitless game since coming off the disabled list with thumb surgery not long ago. Blocks this into left field and a base hit for Peralta with 1 out. Sends Mazzara all the way to the base of the wall, and Peralta can slow down. He's standing up with a double.
Well, as good as the St. Louis Cardinals offense has been this year, there's no doubt that they have missed Johnny Peralta. Now be able to put him back in that lineup, even though it's at third base, is certainly a strong right-handed bat that Mike Matheny was very happy to be able to write that name back in the lineup when he got back.
Got a lot of the plate. That puts Peralta at second base with 1 out. Now facing Yadier Molina. In play up the middle and a base hit. Peralta getting waved in. Molina wastes no time. First pitch swinging to the Cardinals. Lead 1-0.
You mentioned it, Aaron. Not wasting any time. Yadier Molina sees a pitch that he likes. Now, he did not hit it particularly hard, but he put it in the right spot, as we saw both Profar and Odor trying to get to that ball, but just placed perfectly right in between them. Look at this first pitch. Another slider trying to go away. Sits over the middle of the plate, but almost a little bit of luck here on Yadier Molina's side. You see that ball just sit in the middle of the plate, but he still got the top half of it. It's great effort by Odor, who's all the way on the other side of the bag because of the way that he was playing.
Molina taken off and now caught in between. Fielder trying to catch him, and he does.
Certainly not two of the speedsters that Major League Baseball has to offer us.
It's a battle of wills.
Pretty hot out here today as well, but at least for Molina, I mean, not completely giving up. I thought that might have been one where he would have thrown the towel in right away, but he made Prince Fielder work a little bit. And you just see Molina taking off, thinking that Nick Martinez had gotten into a rhythm and thinking he was going to go ahead and pitch. So why not try to get a huge lead and steal a base? But obviously took off a little bit too early. Nick Martinez alerted to it, steps off. They're able to get Molina out.
2 outs, the base is now clean for Diaz. Now, Molina, not the guy you would normally consider a candidate to bolt to second. Does have a couple of steals, though. Aledmus Diaz, one of the best rookie hitters in baseball this year, particularly in the National League. Foul ball. Beltre showing off a strong wrist.
And a handful of fans here, I think, thinking that that ball was fair.
Now you take a look at the Rangers. If you include the run we just saw score, only 2 runs allowed in the previous 24 innings, including this second. And the Cardinals, they have been starved of offense. Their first run across home plate in 13 innings. They have been one of the best offenses in the National League this year, but Mike Matheny has seen his offense, well, run a little bit dry recently.
It has happened, and that's why I mentioned Johnny Peralta. I think is such a welcome addition coming off the disabled list, and We're seeing some changes. You mentioned Randall Grichuk getting sent down. There was a bat that they were counting on that had not been as productive as they had hoped. So they make some changes here, and maybe now this is the lineup with Matt Carpenter at second, Peralta at third, that can get it going here, get them back on track, back to where they were, scoring so many runs.
Now for the Cardinals, we mentioned that somewhat recent 5-game winning streak before losing their past 3 games. Well, on that road trip in Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, the Cardinals averaged 7 runs a game. But they've scored just 3 runs their previous 3 games combined, including being shut out last night. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Diaz. And for Matheny, right when his starting rotation has really started to take form and be the starting 5 that the Cardinals have been so known for in recent years. Their offense has had a hard time recently trying to get that back turned around.
Certainly nothing you can do about that, right? It's about timing, it's about luck, and in a year when you have the Chicago Cubs in your division running away with it as good as they have been, it's unfortunate, but there's not much you can do about that. You hope that you continue to pitch well, and like we mentioned, that the offense gets going and back to where they were at the beginning of the season.
Here comes a 3-2 to Diaz. Beltre vacuums it up. A run in for the Cardinals on the RBI single by Yadier Molina. That brought in Peralta after the 1-out double. '16 All-Stars today with the Esurance MLB All-Star Game Ballot. Vote at MLB.com/vote and catch all the excitement of the 87th MLB All-Star Game presented by MasterCard July 12th live on Fox. Here's Nick Martinez leading things off, looking at a 1-1 count from Carlos Martinez.
Nick looking for that first big league hit, and as much as he was excited to get the start, that's more important to him. Get back in this rotation, try to prove that he belongs there, try to stick there with Yu Darvish being down. It's also fun that you get to come do it in a National League city. 0 for 7 in his career. Want to get that first one as an American League pitcher. You don't get too many opportunities.
Now gets robbed of it here. Caught looking. Second strikeout now for Carlos Martinez. Now just talking about the All-Star Game, we'll take a look at the current voting in the American League. And right now, Salvador Perez still edging Big Papi David Ortiz. A surprising number of Cardinals, or pardon me, a number of Royals involved, and then also Bogarts and Bradley. So a few Red Sox, a few Royals, Machado having an absolutely incredible season for Baltimore.
He has, and they slid him over to shortstop for a little while with J.J. Hardy being out, but he'll slide back to third here with Hardy coming back. And he is a guy that is knocking on the door and probably is starting to belong in the conversation of Mike Trout, Bryce Harper. This guy is a superstar in the league. He is right there, top 3, top 4 for me in Major League Baseball, and he's having a huge year.
Now, you're right. For some reason, he gets overlooked for no good reason. 2-1 to Chu, who singled to begin the ball game today. And Chu ahead 3-1.
You see a 2-1 change up there at 89 miles an hour. And obviously, Yadier Molina knows what he's doing. Far be it me for to question him, but I think it tells you what they think about Chu.
Carpenter with a backhand, a long throw. 2 outs. 2 up, 2 down for Carlos Martinez. Well, we just looked at the American League All-Star voting. How about the National League? Speaking of Yadier Molina, once again.
A couple of question marks in there, but probably none bigger than Addison Russell. And you see the Cubs fans have obviously come out and voted for their team as they're dominating the infield and even one in the outfield. Now, Addison Russell has got a bright future, and he's a pretty good player, but he is not even in the top 5 when you start to break down what's going on in the National League at the shortstop position. Thinking about Diaz having a much better year. Without a doubt, Corey Seager should be the guy. He's having the best year, in my opinion, of any shortstop in the National League. But Brandon Crawford is there as well. It's amazing how deep that position is in the National League. And the way it's set up is fans get to vote, and absolutely that's their deal. But I don't think that Addison Russell is top 5 right now. But you can't blame the Cubs fans. You got to get on those other fan bases. You got to get out there and vote. I guess you don't have to get out there. You can just do it from your computer.
You can do it from anywhere.
There is no getting out there and voting, but you know what I mean.
2-1 to Ian Desmond, who walked back in the first inning. 2 outs, nobody on. We are seeing Martinez routinely fall behind.
And after that first inning, Yadier Molina pulled him aside in between innings, talked to him a little bit, said he was leaking and essentially basically opening up a little bit too quick. And that's why I mentioned we saw him missing on his arm side, that ball running in a little bit more. Sometimes you try to overcompensate and then cut that ball as well. He's just trying to find that consistent release point.
97 miles an hour for a strike.
Here's Molina after that top of the first inning talking, and you see him talking about being quick. That's why that ball's sailing up and away. The pitch that he hit Adrian Beltre. Adam Wainwright walked over as well a little bit after that. Just such a great team atmosphere here where everybody's on board, everybody's involved, and there may not be a better pitching coach in Major League Baseball than the guy that catches for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Now Martinez has been behind the count in 9 of the first 11 hitters that he's faced. But he gets Desmond looking at a fastball. 3 strikeouts for Martinez. They have all come with the bat on a Ranger's shoulder. Retires his side in order for the 2nd straight inning. Cardinals leading 1-0. Martinez to begin things in the bottom of the third. First pitch strike.
So what's the plural? Is it Martinez's or Martinez? Martini? No?
I'll let you be the judge on that, CJ.
Don't let me.
With a name like Nikowski, I think you have more rights than I do. Now, Carlos Martinez, CJ, enters today hitting 200. Are you a subscriber to the philosophy for pitchers' batting averages, that if you add about 100, that's what they really are?
I'd never heard that theory. I'd be completely on board with it. It would make me a career 243 hitter. I'd be, or maybe 234. I'm down with that. Whatever it takes.
So if I threw out any number that would have made your career numbers better, you'd be for it.
If you wouldn't mind dropping a couple off the ERA as well, I mean, that would certainly be welcomed. Anything we can do to make me look better, that's really what this is all about.
I understand. The 0-2. Little squiver to Beltre. And let's just say that Carlos Martinez is not running at full speed in first base, out number one.
I'm okay with that. Obviously, you don't want to see it from a position player, and some people say, well, should you be hustling and potentially force a bad throw? It's warm here. It's the middle of the season. It's a starting pitcher. We've seen guys go down with silly things like hamstrings. That is not the time or the place for Carlos Martinez to bust it down the line.
Makes sense. One up, one down.
See this swing here, and just missed his toe. Obviously, if it hit him, I think we would have saw a little bit of a reaction, but good hitters know how to fake that one too.
Matt Carpenter looks at ball one. Carpenter is one of the more unique leadoff hitters in the game. 28 home runs last season. Does not have a stolen base or even a stolen base attempt on the year, and last year he turned himself into a power hitter.
It's interesting too, the leadoff position just in general. You talk about how unique Matt Carpenter is, but how about some of the guys that we've seen lead off this year? Joe Mauer at one point, Carlos Santana.
You're right.
Jose Batista. Power guys. You know, Santana gets on base. He walks, you know, it's 90 walks a year for 5 years in a row, but it's unusual. It's unusual. It's becoming more usual now for teams to look at the leadoff spot a little bit different. If you don't have what we would consider a prototypical leadoff hitter, then why not go ahead and put your next best option, a guy that maybe does it a little bit differently?
How about John Jaso?
Yeah, the Cardinals or the Pirates did it, right? You mentioned John Jaso. It seems for whatever reason we're just not producing those kind of guys like we used to see so often in Major League Baseball.
A one-out walk to Carpenter. The Cardinals have had a base runner each of the first 3 innings against Nick Martinez. How about we check in with Chris Myers back in LA for a game break? What's going on, Chris? Some good updates there. Thank you, Chris, as Colton Wong steps in with the man at first base. How about Tim Lincecum, CJ? Back-to-back Cy Young Awards, 08, 09, now in the American League for the first time in his career.
It's a good story if he can complete it and be successful. He's still young. That's the one thing about Tim Lincecum is it's so much success so early. A couple of Cy Young Awards, tons of strikeouts early on. He was great for those San Francisco Giants, and then he struggled a little bit. We saw the stuff start to go down, and now here he is trying to make a comeback. Certainly the Angels could use the help. It makes a lot of sense for them to take a flyer on him. But if he can prove at 32 years old, he just turned 32 a couple of days ago, that he can pitch in the big leagues again as a starter, he may get flipped at the deadline, because I don't think the Angels are going to be in this thing, but maybe reestablish some value looking forward to next year as well for Tim Lincecum.
Angels 13.5 games behind the Rangers in the West. Still 0-2 to Colton Wong, who flew out to left field back in the first inning. Wong, who was optioned down to AAA Memphis roughly a week ago before the start of the season, signed a very lucrative 5-year extension for the Cardinals. We were just referencing the standings of the American League West, and right now Texas, well, they have come from behind. They have dethroned the Mariners for the top spot, and they have added to their lead for sure. They are having a chance today to win their 9th straight series. That would be a franchise record. Caught looking for a strikeout this afternoon for Nick Martinez. One of the great unique features here at Busch Stadium, which turns 10 years old this season. Ballpark Village, still in its infancy, about 3 years old. Across the street, this is the view from the Village into Busch Stadium. And a look inside. So a very nice hello to everybody inside. Ballpark
What a
Village.
place to be. That's how you stay cool here in St. Louis. And I don't know how big that screen is, but it's certainly not small. But what a great place to be able to sit and watch your Cardinals play. Some good boots, some great food, a couple of cold beverages, I'm sure, along the way. Great job they've done with Ballpark Village here. Very unique. It wouldn't surprise me at all if we start to see potentially some other teams try to copy something similar to what they've done here in St. Louis.
Well, if you were trying to duck out of a family reunion today and go to Ballpark Village and enjoy the game, sorry, we just busted you. Another move to first base, keeping an eye on Carpenter. Even up on the roof, and these seats actually count towards the official game attendance inside Busch Stadium, even though they're on the other side of the street.
Very cool. Great view from up there. Again, beautiful day to be out there on the top. Might be a little bit rough for 9 innings, but again, they did such a great job. Great thoughts in designing that and how they have the couple of suites underneath and a couple of decks there. It's a very cool thing they've done here in St. Louis.
And not to be overlooked, one of the best Hall of Fames in the game outside of Cooperstown. There in Ballpark Village, over 8,000 square feet of Cardinals history, and they did a magnificent job with it. Holiday takes first. A 2-out hit batter, and now Martinez dealing with 2 runners on. Well, we were talking about the Cardinals Hall of Fame, and this is a beauty. You can see the replica of the 96 arches that we just passed from the old Busch. And even though we said over 8,000 square feet, they still don't have enough room for all the memorabilia.
Great history there as you see old Busch Stadium. Miniature replica that they have there. Beautiful on the inside, but it's the history here of this organization where 8,000 square feet is not going to get it done. What a beautiful job. Beautiful design on the inside.
Plenty of history. 2 outs and 2 on, now facing Piscotty, who has been one of the best, if not, well, actually the best in baseball this year, with runners in scoring position. He's been playing a video game, batting over 500, CJ.
Not sustainable probably over the entire season, but an impressive number. Nonetheless, some people don't believe in the clutch gene or guys that can get dialed in big spots. I absolutely do. And for Stephen Piscotty, a student of the game, no doubt in my mind that he thrives in these moments.
A little flare, some good hang time to Odor.
I'm going to guess Odor. They don't want to tell us who has it. I think it's Odor.
One of them's got it, and that's the end of the inning.
There it is, Odor. Good trick.
Oh, they win that one. We go to the 4th. the top of the fourth for the Rangers. Warm day. Not a lot of shade. Trying to stay cool here inside Busch Stadium. Now, CJ, you look at Carlos Martinez. He faced the minimum each of the last 2 innings, and yet 13 pitches to get the first out of the second, facing Odor, and then back-to-back 3-ball counts with 1 out in the top of the third. So even though he's faced the minimum the last 2, the pitch count is, we see it now at 50.
Yeah, a little bit higher than he wants, without a doubt, but there's nothing you can really do about that at bat to Odor. You got to credit the hitter there, and it's a great job, even though it ends up being a ground out when it's all said and done. It does damage because it makes the pitcher throw more pitches, and conservation is what Carlos Martinez has been trying to accomplish this year, but there's nothing you can do about those foul balls.
He's thrown a first pitch strike to just 3 of the first 12 batters he's faced.
It's been interesting too to watch Molina call that changeup a little bit more, and I think the idea there is trying to help him find that release point, which has been inconsistent.
Broken bat, and what a reach there by Adams. Rumbling over to make the catch for out number 1. Let's head back to Los Angeles once again. Chris Myers with the game break. All right, thank you, Chris. So some news from around the American League East. The Blue Jays certainly happy to have Tulo back.
They just lost Jose Bautista, who had to go on the DL with a sprained toe, and so now to get Tulo back, maybe you look at that as kind of a swap. Troy Tulowitzki's really struggled since he got to the Toronto Blue Jays last year in that trade, so I'm sure they're happy to have him back, and now the next step is to see some production.
Adams a long way to go for it. Foul ground, and can't make the catch. Watching out for the tarp.
That's a pretty tough play for a first baseman to have to run that far. Matt Adams, without a doubt, gives his best effort, but you're looking for the tarp. You're looking up into the sun. You're trying not to get hurt. It's the best he's going to be able to do in that situation. Very, very difficult play.
His leg really recoiled there. One out, 1 ball, and 1 strike. Now, Beltre missed 7 straight games because of a hamstring injury, was never placed on the disabled list. And all he's done in the 2 games since coming back is pick up 5 hits. He's gone 5 for 9 after missing 7 games. Tight to the line and deep for Peralta. Low throw, but it's picked nicely by Adams. 2 outs.
Well, we mentioned Johnny Peralta going over to third base. With the way that the Cardinals have shuffled this lineup, but he's done it before. He's got over 200 games played at that position, but it had been a little while, but does a nice job in that long throw.
MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, delivers everything you've come to expect and more. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. 2 up, 2 down. Here is Prince Fielder. Strike to make it 1-1.
You see the shift here on Prince Fielder, and without a doubt that has contributed to the lower batting average that we have seen from him. There's a lot of players that have fallen victim to it.
Broken bat the opposite way, and Fielder's going to get in there without a throw. Two-out base hit. Of course, Fielder coming over from Detroit. John Daniels sending Ian Kinsler to go play at Comerica Park for the Tigers, something Kinsler was not too pleased with at the time. And of course, you look at these numbers, you have to remember that Fielder missed essentially an entire year because of the neck injury. But how about these numbers? The home runs in particular, Kinsler having an all-star first half. The OPS stands out for Kinsler as well.
It really does stick out, and it's surprising. Now, you mentioned the injury, that's important, but just also not quite the same production. I thought there was a chance for Prince Fielder that he could be a 35 to 40 home run hitter playing down in Arlington. It's a great ballpark for left-handed hitting. Get the ball up in the air in right field and it takes off, but has not happened for him. the way that I think everybody involved, including John Daniels, thought.
2 outs and a man at first for Odor. And on his hands, 0-2. Now, the last time we saw Odor at the plate, saw 13 pitches. He eventually grounded out, but this coming from the guy who basically sees fewer pitches than anyone in the game.
Yeah, and it's a stat that we pay closer attention to, but ultimately, if you're getting your hits and you're hitting the ball hard, you're okay with it, right? It's the guys that are not hitting well, batting average is low, and then you want to see them take some more pitches and try to get on base. But Odor is having a really nice year. He prefers to be aggressive. That is who he is. That's his personality. He's going to look for something early. He's not going to get behind in the count, and when he sees something he likes, he's going to go hacking.
A little shaken up after that last swing. Still 0-2.
And I think it's changed too the game, because we sit there and we talk about trying to get starters out of the game. Well, pitch counts, we're so conservative with them these days anyway. I don't know if it's as important as it used to be, trying to see as many pitches as you possibly can with the way bullpens have developed.
Rockets this foul. That's the 10th pitch in 2 at-bats so far today that he has spoiled foul.
Carlos Martinez right now is thinking about a way to get him either to put the ball in play or finish him off a lot earlier than he has been able to so far in these 2 at-bats.
Again, the 0-2. Holiday just drifting slightly, and a 2-hand squeeze to finish off the top of the 4th. Fielder left stranded. Mike Matheny updated his scorecard. We go to the bottom of the 4th. 1-0 Cardinals. For 1 leads off the bottom of the 4th for St. Louis. And the first pitch from Nick Martinez. There for a strike.
A lot of people talk about the St. Louis Cardinals and their player development and the kind of success that they have had. One thing always sticks out to me with Matt Adams and the success that he's had at the big league level. It's a 23rd round draft pick out of Slippery Rock University of Pennsylvania. I don't think they were a powerhouse. I hadn't heard of them before, but it just goes to show you, even in the late rounds, the St. Louis Cardinals have done very well with their player development. 2 guys in their bullpen. Thinking about Kevin Segrist, a 41st rounder, Trevor Rosenthal, 21st rounder. I mean, these are not first round picks, and it is really amazing to see the job that the St. Louis Cardinals have done and what they have produced out of their minor league system. Not just their high picks, but also their late picks.
No, it's a skill set that many franchises wish they could be as good at. Adams had a breakout year in the minors 5 years ago. He was the Cardinals minor league player of the year at AA ball. Underneath Odor's glove. And Adams aboard to lead off the bottom of the fourth.
We'll see how they rule this one for Rougned Odor. It's a tough play. He comes running in on the back end. We'll see it here. Ball's hit pretty hard. You see the higher bounce. It's not an easy play, but one that he certainly expects to make, and assume they'll give him an error on that. What do you think?
It is an error. Puts the leadoff man aboard for Johnny Peralta, who doubled and has scored the lone run of this game. He came home on an RBI single from Molina right up the middle. Jackknifes him for ball one. Now Peralta playing third base for the first time since he was a member of the Cleveland Indians. You might remember when he was suspended during his days with the Tigers, and then Detroit went out and got Jose Iglesias from the Red Sox. When Peralta came back, he was in left field.
We love the idea of the guys being open to that versatility and going to different positions. It's important. We talked about it in Major League Baseball, but for a 34-year-old shortstop, I mean, you think, okay, is the range going down? Not really. Johnny Peralta's been a good shortstop, but for him to slide over to third, he sees the young Diaz as well as he has been, holding that position down at 25 years old. It's about winning, and a lot of these guys get it, and the culture here, I think, also makes it a little bit easier to accept.
That's a shot out to center, but Desmond is able to slow up right on the base of the track. Round number one. And Peralta hit it stiff, but not deep enough. One out. David Ortiz, Chris Bryant, Bryce Harper, Mike Trout, and all of baseball's superstars come together for the primetime event that will light up the summer, the MLB All-Star Game from San Diego, July 12th, only on Fox. You like Kershaw as an All-Star this year, CJ?
I like his chances. I will tell you this, and he will be the starter in the All-Star game. I think that's without a doubt, but there are 7 or 8 legitimate National League starters that would have an opportunity to start that game. Kershaw is the cream of the crop, and we're seeing history with what he is doing right now. But the National League is extremely deep. On the flip side, the American League, not so much. Maybe Chris Sale will be the starter. He's got 11 wins. He's done a nice job. Stephen Wright was not even a member of the Boston Red Sox rotation, has been one of the best starters in the American League this year, but the National League is extremely deep with starting pitching this year.
And Danny Salazar right now leading the American League in ERA, just slightly better than Wright of Boston. But you're correct, CJ. The number of aces and just dominant pitching performances we've seen this year from the National League, too many to count. Fielder able to keep his foot on the bag, and Molina bounces into an inning-ending double play that wipes away leadoff error. And Nick Martinez faces the minimum for the first time in 4 innings. dogs around Busch Stadium today. It is Dog Day here at the ballpark. You can bring your canine here to Busch Stadium. Well, this was earlier today before the game. How about this, CJ?
I'd be worried about coming down. Odor, similar ups, not quite as good. But that dog can't throw a ball like that. No chance.
Well, Adam's just glad he didn't climb his back like that dog did. Profar leads off the top of the 5th inning, looks at a strike. We had a chance to meet Mike Matheny's dog today. A ferocious, truly looking German Shepherd, albeit a beautiful one, named Thor. And no Syndergaard relation there, but about as intimidating as Syndergaard, you could probably say.
I'd say so, but very polite, very well mannered.
For sure.
Mike talked about how he's always been a Labrador Retriever owner, but he's got a new Shepherd now. He said he's been absolutely shocked at how smart the dog is and how loyal, and you can see him beaming a little bit with pride over Thor.
Adams well off the bag, a low scoop, and Martinez safe at first. Profar. Martinez not able to stay on the bag.
And we'll see this on replay. And Carlos Martinez took a pretty big wide route, never got to the base, and he was thinking he might have had to field this ball. Now, a lot of times this has to do with where your position players are positioned, and you see him there and he misses it. He's looking down and hoping, and then tries to get it on the toe, but that's too late. But he's trying to field that ball, and at that point he probably should have known, go to the bag. A little overambitious chasing that ground ball, and it's very difficult because he's got his back to the bag and you're not going to see it, and you're going to take a blind stab at it, and he missed.
A good call there by Andy Fletcher, first base umpire. Infield base hit for Profar.
Catch and find. It's so much more difficult as you kind of come up the line for a traditional ground ball. You can see the bag in front of you, but with the route that Martinez took right there, you cannot see that bag.
That brings in Robinson Chirinos, the number 8 hitting catcher, as Martinez throws a 4-seam fastball over to first base. And we mentioned Chirinos has missed a bunch of time this year with a broken forearm, but 6 of his 7 hits this season have been for extra bases. A former infielder in the Cubs system, now the catcher for the Rangers. Again, keeping an eye on Profar.
You see a little bit of the longer hold there that time by Carlos Martinez, trying to mix up his looks, and a lot of times fans will get frustrated with the throws over, and it's not always about picking a runner off. It's about keeping him close and disrupting timing in case he does try to steal that bag, and then ultimately you give Yadier Molina, one of the best throws we've ever seen, an opportunity to nail a base runner.
Strike one to Chirinos. Now the Cardinals leading 1-0 early on thanks to Molina's RBI single. The Rangers so far this season the only team in baseball with a winning record when their opponents score first. Texas winners of their last 4, St. Louis losers of their last 3. One of those streaks will be extended today. High leap there by Peralta to second, onto first, and a double play ball. A beautiful one at that. That's the second behind Martinez today. That was a thing of beauty.
It certainly was, and we mentioned Johnny Peralta back at third base for the first time in a long time, but you would never know it. Great awareness of both base runners here. You got to have that internal clock. He jumps. A lot of guys are going to throw that ball to first base, but look at the quick release. And look at the great turn. I mean, you're talking about guys that, yes, Matt Carpenter has played second base in the past, but he's been a third baseman as of late. Johnny Peralta has been at short, and both of those guys not missing a beat in their new positions.
Suddenly 2 outs, the base is empty for Martinez, the pitcher.
Watch how quickly Johnny Peralta gets rid of this ball. Just great awareness, knowing he does not have a ton of time.
Now, Carlos Martinez has now forced more double play balls than any other pitcher in the game. The man that he just passed is in the other dugout, and that's tomorrow's starter for Texas, lefty Martin Perez. 2-1. the Martinez battle. Wages on here in the 5th. Weak ground ball. Easy scoop there for Diaz. So despite a leadoff single, the side retired in order by Carlos Martinez for the 3rd time in the first 5 innings. The way Colin Cowherd and Jason Whitlock do. The brains to know and the guts to say. Catch Colin and Jason as they team up for FS1's new daily sports talk show. Speak for yourself. Weeknights at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific.
I hope you guys will tune in for that. It's our new lead-in for MLB Whip Around on FS1, our highlight show. You can see at 7 o'clock Eastern. Myself, Dontrell Willis, Chris Myers, Kevin Burkhardt, all kinds of good guys in there. Frank Thomas every once in a while. Pete Rose drop in, which is a lot of fun. But yeah, we're hoping
he could be behind you at any moment.
That's right. You never know with the still the hit king, by the way.
Oh, there's
Pete
no
Rose.
doubt. Aledmus Diaz leads off the bottom of the 5th for the Cardinals. Now, CJ, you were talking about Nick Martinez at the start of this game and how deep he might be able to go. He went 2 1/3 innings scoreless just a few days ago, 45 pitches in Oakland, and Jeff Bannister has him working here in the 5th.
He's got to be thrilled with the pitch count at 52. You mentioned it. Last outing, 45 pitches in just 2 1/3. It was a relief appearance. They intentionally kept him at 45, and some guys stretching and keeping an eye on what's going on. But he's been in a rhythm. He's done a nice job, and if you can stretch this to 5 or beyond, that would be a really nice bonus here for Jeff Bannister and the Rangers.
Just sends Chu angling off to his right, slams the brakes, fights the sun, and makes the catch for out number 1.
It's a good job here by Shin-Chu Chu, and even though he's got the glasses on, it's a battle. Sometimes you get these odd start times, 3 o'clock locally here. Does a good job of pulling that ball in.
Here comes the pitcher, Carlos Martinez. And we saw this in the top of the 5th inning. How about this for a little trivia for you, CJ? 8th time in big league history we have seen a matchup between 2 starting pitchers named Martinez, and it was the brothers, Pedro and Ramon, the last time it happened, August of 1996.
It almost seems low to me. You think about a common name or think about maybe Rodriguez, maybe that one would be a little bit more, but certainly interesting for these two guys. No relation, battling each other.
1-2. Ramon Martinez versus Dennis Martinez made up 6 of those previous battles. Those two face each other often. Late 80s, early 90s.
You might be surprised to find out that's never happened in my life. No other Nikowskis in Major League Baseball.
Not even when you pitched overseas?
No, I never did play in the Polish League. I did get some time in Korea, Japan, and the Dominican Republic, but no Nikowskis in any of those countries either.
Oh, that's a shame. You were robbed. So was baseball. 1 out, nobody on. The 1-2. Up the middle and a base hit. Carlos Martinez, a 1-out single. Just a 4th hit today for Cardinals hitters.
Well, you see the pitch count now here at 60 for Nick Martinez, and going back to what he has done this year, he was in the minor leagues for most of the year, and he had been a starter. As we see him giving up this pitch, this base hit on a break ball, and a pretty well located one. He's got to be happy with it, and credit Carlos Martinez with a nice job and a nice at bat. But June 9th was his last start in AAA, so it was not that long ago, and he threw 99 pitches in that start. And so maybe for Jeff Bannister, even though he essentially skipped the start when he got called up and went into the bullpen, is a little bit more comfortable than we thought as far as extending this pitch count for Nick Martinez.
1 out and 1 on for Matt Carpenter. Martinez helping to fill the spot of the injured Yu Darvish. Rangers enter this game today with the best rotation in the American League in terms of earned run average, just under 3.5. And they have spent the bulk of this season, of course, without Darvish.
I thought when they got Yu Darvish back, that was the acquisition that was really going to put them over the top. They won a division without him last year. It came down to the last day of the season. They prefer not to have to do it again this year. That's an arm that they'd love to have because it's a difference maker, obviously, not just in the regular season, but in the postseason as well. As this team tries to go deeper this year, first win the division, but of course make a run at that World Series. Yu Darvish almost has to be a part of it. Now, whether or not they try to go outside the organization and add, that is certainly a possibility. That the prospects to trade, they had a great trading deadline last year where they improved that bullpen and also brought in Cole Hamels, which was a huge piece for them. They may be in the market in 2016 depending on what is going on with Yu Darvish.
4-pitch walk to Carpenter, who reaches yet again. He has reached now 6 times in 7 plate appearances in this series.
Now you got to think that for the Texas Rangers, they're probably going to get some action in the bullpen. I haven't seen it just yet, but you're at that point. We mentioned it. Nick Martinez, 64 pitches, 45 in his last relief appearance in a close game here on the road. If he cannot get the ground ball that he wants here, trying to get that double play, we could be seeing the day come to an end sooner than later.
And Cesar Ramos beginning to stir inside the bullpen for the Rangers.
Ramos was originally slated to start this game before they decided to give the ball to Nick Martinez, so they know if they needed a longer outing that he would be the guy.
He started 5 days ago against the A's. Long showing bunt, looking at a ball.
Interesting decision there with a pitcher on second base that Colton Wong would think about laying one down, unless he's just taking a pitch there, which is certainly a possibility.
He struck out looking, facing Martinez back in the 3rd. Now ahead 2-0. And a visit out to the mound, Doug Brocail, the pitching coach.
This one is about time and giving him a breather. We saw the 4-pitch walk and now falling behind here 2-0. Think about Colton Wong. They have righties on deck. So the next couple of hitters are going to be Holiday and Piscotty. So with Ramos warming up, as we see the steady pitch count so far throughout the 4 and the 3rd innings, you got to imagine he at least has the next 2 hitters. I don't think those are ideal matchups, Holiday and Piscotty, but maybe a breather here. Nick Martinez try to get him back on track. Again, just one pitch away. If you can locate that good two-seam fastball down and away and getting that ground ball and trying to pray in a fastball count with an over-aggressive hitter, that's a quick way to get out of this.
Colton Wong just recalled from AAA Memphis. Two on and one out. Holds it on the right side, past fielder. Martinez making the turn around third. He scores. Chu, a strong throw to third base. Meanwhile, to second, and safe there. Wong in scoring position, and as he has played in the second run of the game.
Well, Nick Martinez threw the pitch that he wanted. He got the result that he wanted, but this ball was right in the hole between the first and second baseman. He pulls this ground ball into the outfield. And Carlos Martinez gets a great jump, great view from here. Watch this, the pitch is down. There's the ground ball, but just well located. I like to see Prince Fielder dive for that ball and at least try to keep it in front of him. And then Chu gets over aggressive with this throw. There is no play at third base right there. And what happens is now you allow Colton Wong to get into scoring position. You eliminate the double play. It'll drive your manager crazy every single time there is a time and a place to be aggressive. That was not it, as they had no shot at getting Matt Carpenter at third.
So now a 2-0 lead for St. Louis. And two runners in scoring position for Matt Holliday as the infield has to creep in. Goes after the first pitch and sails it foul. Odor, fielder, full steam ahead, and they both take a tumble over the post dispatch. Very adventurous strike one.
Well, certainly difficult for both of those guys. Long run here for Prince Fielder, and you see Odor catch him, and now Prince becomes more about survival and a little intimate moment between teammates. And look at this view. We put our cameras in all the right places, but cameraman.
Oh, come on.
Oh, no.
Well, no, I don't blame him.
Oh, wait a minute.
Don't blame him.
It's a big man coming your way.
Self-preservation. We want him the rest of the game.
Do they have kangaroo court for cameramen? I got somebody I'd like to throw in the box.
Wong at second base, Carpenter at third. A run in, that's Martinez. Almost got him, it did get him. Scrapes him, bases loaded.
And the second time Nick Martinez has hit Matt Holliday. Now obviously not solid contact there. That certainly would have not sit well at all with Matt Holliday. And what you've done is you've loaded the bases so you create the force anywhere. Potential double play is what Nick Martinez will try to get here. But he struggled as well. Arm side, you watch this ball run up and in on Matt Holliday, just like we talked about with Carlos Martinez. And I mean, an elbow hair, I think maybe is what that hit.
Carpenter, who walked, now at third base. Wong, an RBI single at second, and now Holliday hit by the pitch, if you can call it that. Just enough at first base for Stephen Piscotty, looking for his first hit today. Goes after the first one, and he drops it into right field. Carpenter scores, Wong is held, and it's 3-0 St. Louis as Piscotty continues to rake with runners in scoring position this season.
Well, it is amazing. We talked about it, the numbers coming in, 509 this season, and a guy who just does not get shaken at all in the big moment. And Jeff Bannister has seen enough, and that's going to be it for Nick Martinez.
And it was looking like he had a chance to maybe get 5 very strong innings out of Martinez. But with one out, the single to his counterpart, Carlos Martinez, a walk, an RBI single, a hit batter, and now an RBI single. As you can see, Piscotty, by far and away the best in the game entering today, with runners in scoring position, batting nearly .510.
It literally went up as we were watching it. That graphic started out at 500 and is now back to 509, but he is getting it done.
And he's 1 for 2 with runners in scoring position today, and his average has gone down. That should tell you something. 3-0 Cardinals. Ramos inheriting runners for the first time this year. He's got the bags packed behind him. And he fires in a first pitch strike to Matt Adams. Ramos started on this road trip for the Rangers back in Oakland. We thought for some time he would be getting the start today. Instead it was Nick Martinez, but Ramos works out of the bullpen. Chirinos down at third base, keeping an eye on Wong.
Ramos has had a difficult job going back and forth from the bullpen to the rotation. Never an easy thing to do. You mentioned that last start did not go particularly well for him at all in Oakland when he allowed 8 runs in a loss to the A's. And he's a guy that does not throw particularly hard. That fastball will sit in the upper 80s. Doesn't use it very often, just 31% of the time. So a lot of off-speed stuff from Ramos.
Desmond coming in, medium depth. Wong ready to go at third base. Here he comes, tensing the arm of Desmond, and he is out at home. A shortstop last season, Desmond Jennings. Desmond, showing off the howitzer. Again, we've seen this time and time again this season for the new center fielder for the Texas Rangers.
Well, you see him get behind the ball perfectly, which is what you're taught to do. Get everything behind that throw, and it looked like Chirinos caught it in the air. No slide right there at all from Colton Wong. Nice play by the Rangers.
The 3-0 Cardinals lead as we start the top of the 6th. Piscotty has been fantastic, as we were saying, with runners in scoring position, and especially with the bases jam-packed. 7 for 11, 14 RBIs, including that one in the 5th inning. Carlos Martinez back up on the mound for the Cardinals. And Chu looks at ball 1. CJ, are you surprised that Wong tagged at third base when we have seen this year the league has learned quickly that Ian Desmond has much more than a shortstop's arm in center field? Quick reflexes by Martinez. Round number 1.
I was a little bit surprised, to be honest with you. The ball was up in the air. We saw Ian Desmond play it perfectly, get behind it exactly the way that you're supposed to. I guess if you're the Cardinals, you're looking at that situation and making him, forcing him to make that perfect throw, which he did. But you got Johnny Peralta coming up. That's something that you certainly have to keep in mind when a third base coach is making that decision, whether or not he told him to go or Wong decided to go on his own. We're not exactly sure, but the bigger surprise there for me is that he didn't slide. And I know there's some confusion every once in a while with the rules, but you got to slide. There's a chance that if he's sliding, he's going to go right into Chirinos' glove. That ball's going to be a lot harder to catch for him. So that is as much of a problem for me on that play as much as him actually making the decision to go.
Well, Desmond now at the plate with 1 out.
See Ian Desmond just perfectly done. And what you run into sometimes with guys is that the throw will start to sail on you a little bit if you get around it, but that really, we had a great view of it here. Did not have a lot of movement on it. The ball stayed straight, which you wanted to do as an outfielder, and the fact that he was able to get that there on the air. If that's short hop Chirinos, the ball's probably bouncing behind home plate, but just really well executed. Watch it here, didn't sail at all. Stayed right on line, a little bit up the line, but I don't know. There's a possibility for Wong that as he sees Chirinos up the line a little bit, he's not comfortable sliding. Now in that situation, he is allowed to make contact with Chirinos.
They appealed out to first base. Andy Fletcher says it does not go. Full count. Desmond, the former draft pick by the Montreal Expos in their final draft in franchise history. Desmond began the season in left field for the Rangers. Did not take long for him to move to center field. Delano DeShields, last year's spark plug in this offense for Texas, in center field early this season, now down to AAA. Chopper to third, and a foul ball. Break there for Peralta.
A little bit of a break for sure. I wonder, he realized he wasn't going to have a play, most likely, and then it took a little bit of a bad hop as well and was not positioned to field that ball. It's not his fault. It just took a little bit of a weird hop to the left, and he's lucky that it continued. Watch this right here. He's thinking he's going to make this play. Almost went past him. You see him pull his arm back at the last second. He's lucky he got it right, because if he didn't, that's extra bases for Ian Desmond.
Time called. We have already seen 10 ground ball outs from Carlos Martinez. That's back-to-back starts with double-digit outs on the ground. Another 2 double play balls today for Martinez. The best in the game right now. Forget just the National League.
You look at the consistency there. You love seeing the 9 pitches in the 5th inning, but no real blow-up inning. We saw him struggle a little bit in that 1st inning, but even with the 13 to Odor in the 2nd, only 18 total pitches thrown that inning.
2 outs is Desmond down swinging. Let's go back to Los Angeles with Chris Myers with the game break. Chris. All right, thank you, Chris. CJ, there are too many young stars in the game to name.
There's a lot. And you think about Xander Bogaerts, all the conversation at shortstop this year in the American League was Francisco Lindor, Carlos Correa. Xander Bogaerts still very young, but maybe a forgotten stud of the group, and he's been the best of them all this year. Another position so deep here in Major League Baseball with good young talent. How about the Red Sox? But this is a team that spends a lot of money. But it's guys like Travis Shaw, Mookie Betts, Jackie Bradley Jr., Xander Bogaerts, guys that are not making a lot of money that have had a huge impact on that team this year.
Bogaerts only 23 years old. As Mazzara shoots this out towards center. A chance for Wong on the warning track. Makes it very casually for out number 3. Carlos Martinez has blanked the Rangers over 6 innings. Cardinals lead the Rangers 3-0. Texas had the bases loaded in the first. They did not score a run as Nick Martinez out of the game right now. The Rangers starter who was knocked out of the fifth ended up going 4 to third innings. Meanwhile, the Cardinals getting some offense. Colton Wong, Stephen Piscotty in the fifth, a 2-run inning. And Carlos Martinez, 6 scoreless. He's faced the minimum in 4 of the first 6 innings today. 1 ball and 1 strike to Peralta.
Some good defense here today. We see Johnny Peralta back at third base, has done a nice job. Ian Desmond in center field, a new position for him. In 2016, Jurickson Profar is getting his opportunity. It's been quiet so far today, but interesting to watch the defense. Colton Wong handling his opportunities in center field. A couple of fly balls that he has gotten. First time he's played there in his career. It's been a very well played ball game so far.
2-1. Clubbed out to left center field as Desmond's able to track it down. 1 up and 1 down. That'll bring in Yadier Molina.
And I mentioned Ramos and how little he uses his fastball. 31.7% of the time. Now, he hasn't pitched that much this year at the big league level, but had he qualified, that would be the lowest usage of a fastball by any pitcher that is not a knuckleball pitcher in Major League Baseball. That is how much he stays away from his fastball. Colin McHugh also at 31.7%, the starter from the Houston Astros.
We have seen Molina swing at the first pitch in 2 of his first 3 at-bats today. The first time that happened was back in the 2nd inning when he drove in the first run of the ball game. RBI single up the middle. Tries to hold back, instead 0-2. Now Molina had a lengthy slump. 6 for 63, but his last 10 games hitting over 370 now. Three pitches and he's down swinging at 69 miles an hour. 2 outs. Follow live baseball with the MLB.com at-bat app. Stay up to the moment with any moment with game day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com at-bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet. Ramos collects his first strikeout. Only the 2nd strikeout by a Cardinals hitter today. That brings in Diaz, the shortstop. Now Diaz, the best hitting rookie in baseball, and 2 of the top rookies in the game on center stage here today from Busch Stadium. Nomar Mazara winning the American League Rookie of the Month award already twice in April and May on the other side.
Both of these organizations, you have to be beaming. You have prospects, you develop guys, but you never know what's going to happen when you get them to the big league level, when the bright lights go on, when they're facing major league pitching every single night, big league bullpens as strong as they are, and you expect some struggles in the beginning of their careers, and it hasn't happened so far. Both Mazara and Diaz have gotten off to great starts, and so for both the Rangers and the Cardinals and their player development people, they just have to be tickled with the performances that they've seen from both of these guys.
Now Diaz, for all of his success this year, 0 for 2 today, now 4 for his last 32. That's a little run on the road. But this time last year was in the Texas League for the Springfield Cardinals, and now one of the best rookie hitters in the game. Easy play for Odor, and it's 3 up, 3 down for Cesar Ramos, who's retired all 4 men that he's been asked to face since coming in back of Nick Martinez. Adrian Beltre inside the batter's box to start the top of the 7th. And he stares at a first pitch strike from Carlos Martinez. This is now the 7th straight game that a Cardinals starter has worked into the 7th inning. This is one of the major issues, if not at the front of the line, for Mike Matheny's Cardinals earlier this year. The rotation. 10 outs on the ground as Beltre behind 1-2.
You love the exchange there as we see the 10 ground outs to the 4 strikeouts for a guy who, if he really wanted to and focused on it, could be striking out 8 to 12 a game with the kind of stuff that he has. But he's now able to pitch into the 7th inning. That is exactly what they've asked of him. And he's done a really nice job of conserving pitches and understanding how to get those ground balls. I mean, even back into that 2nd inning, we mentioned it. Odor has that long at bat, and yet he still gets out of that inning. It was 13 pitches, and he gets out of the inning with 18 pitches. He's done a really nice job of making pitches when he has to and getting a handful of those early outs.
Chopping to Carpenter for a routine out number 1 to begin the 7th. If you look at the ERA by the Cardinals rotation, April and May, a little under 4.5. And then this month, CJ, shaving a whole run off almost, 3.5.
And it matters. And it matters the depth as well. And the defense has been better. I think that's been part of it as well. That's certainly going to help with that starter's ERA.
12 outs on the ground. Hey, once again, let's go back to Los Angeles. Check in with Chris Myers. What's going on, Chris? Now, what a story that would be. Always helps getting a little run support from a guy like Mike Trout. Tim doesn't mind that at all. Odor on the first pitch laces this on the ground into center field. Odor's first hit. Now a 2-out single extends the top of the 7th. Look at this dominating number. 1.09 ERA his last 32 innings.
You see it, and you can tell right now for Carlos Martinez as we see warming up in the bullpen. Carlos Martinez is due to lead off next inning, so certainly Mike Matheny would love to see him finish this inning off, and quite possibly that could be it for Carlos Martinez.
First pitch to Profar. And Profar thought he was taken inside. Instead, it's strike 1.
We've seen this a couple of times from Carlos Martinez, and it's never a bad thing to get a break. This is a changeup that he's trying to throw away to the outside part of the plate, away from a left-handed hitter, and he cuts it. It's still a strike. The ball crosses the plate a strike, but it's nowhere near the glove. And a lot of times umpires will not call that pitch, especially when it's on the corner of the opposite side of where you were trying to throw it.
Martinez ahead 0-2.
And this is always fun to see here now what Carlos Martinez and really what Molina wants to do here. They accidentally throw a changeup in, then they go 96 in. If he can execute his changeup down and away the way that he wants to below the plate here, this is the kind of situation where he can go ahead and go for that strikeout. Looks like he called for the changeup. It's the pitch you want to be a strike, but finish a ball. No, it's a fastball, excuse me. I have not seen a 96-mile-an-hour changeup yet. We've seen a couple 91, 92s in Major League Baseball these days, and Steven Strasburg is one of them that can get his changeup up there, but that was a four-seam fastball. Now that should be a changeup from what I remember.
Here comes pitch number 100.
And that one sat over the middle of the plate, and that's not where Molina wants it. He wants that pitch down and away on the corner, even in that 1-2 count, either right on the corner or just off, and trying to get Jurickson Profar to chase it. He was out front, obviously. You see how far in front he was of this pitch, so the speed was right, but the location over the plate gave Profar an opportunity to foul it off.
Once more the 1-2. Peralta to finish off the inning. 101 pitches for Carlos Martinez, who has blanked the Texas Rangers over 7 frames. For Texas as we begin the bottom of the 7th inning. Face a pinch hitter. Tommy Pham just recalled today from AAA Memphis with Randall Grichuk being optioned down. Grichuk batting just .206 this year and having a very rough month of June. So Pham, who injured an oblique on opening day, making his long-awaited return here to St. Louis.
This organization, the St. Louis Cardinals, are still very high on Randall Grichuk. They've always believed in him. They've always believed in the power, the exit velocity. He squares the ball up. When he does square a ball up, he can hit it almost as hard as anybody in Major League Baseball, but there have been some inconsistencies there, so they want to give him a little bit of a mental break. Go down to AAA, get yourself back. Very similar to the way that Colton Wong did. He was only down there for 10 days, and he was fantastic, and maybe the confidence now up for Colton Wong. They're hoping to see the same thing for Randall Grichuk.
Now Mike Matheny, that is, used the term superstar for the potential of Randall Grichuk. And folks here in St. Louis saw flashes of that last year, there's no doubt.
Well, it's there. Establishing yourself consistently at the big league level is not an easy thing to do. That's what's made what Diaz has done and what Mazara has done all the more impressive. But the thing that he said I thought was really interesting too, Mike Matheny telling us before the game that he felt that it was important that Randall Grichuk heard that from them, because a lot of times you can get sent down and you kind of get a ho-hum. I've been there many times. You get kind of the ho-hum, hey, we'll see you back here and get it done from your organization. But they absolutely believe in him, and they wanted to make sure he knew that.
Pham strikes out for round number 1 as we take a look at our T-Mobile greater coverage of baseball. And we have seen a trio of run-scoring singles that began with Yadier Molina in the second, and then Wong just called back up and came with a 5th, and then it was Stephen Piscotty with the bases loaded.
Piscotty's maybe the most impressive, as you saw, breaking ball there, bases loaded, doesn't try to do too much, takes his base hit to left field as opposed to trying to hit that ball in the left field bleachers and maybe pulling off of it, and that's got to be part of the reason why he has been so successful in those RBI situations. Guys can quiet themselves and stay in control and not try to do too much.
One out, nobody on for Matt Carpenter. who has been one of the best on basemen in the game this year. So Carlos Martinez out of the game right now, and a little post-performance report with Yadier Molina.
You never stop trying to learn. You see the line there. It's a great line for Carlos Martinez. It's a great game, but he has that opportunity to sit there with Molina, go over a couple of things while they're fresh in his mind, and he said he was really good today.
Carpenter has lived on base in this series. Chu comes in throwing, but a slide double for Matt Carpenter. Now Carpenter 2 hits, 2 walks last night, 2 walks, and now a double here today in the bottom of the 7th inning.
And this is just a fastball that finished down the middle. We talked about how Ramos does not throw particularly hard. A two-seamer that didn't run that much. Good swing by Carpenter. This one really just out of the reach, it looks like, of Prince Fielder, who's getting that opportunity because of interleague play to play first base. Chu does a nice job, but there's nothing he can do to prevent that double.
Now most extra base hits in the National League since the start of last year. You can add one more.
Saw Nolan Arenado on that list. Another really strong season that he is having. Superstar in the league, and you can say all you want about Colorado. It doesn't matter. This guy on both sides of the ball.
His numbers have been better on the road in recent
great.
years. A chop off the plate. Fielder with a low scoop keeps his feet. And there is out number 2. Carpenter, meanwhile, gets into third base.
This is one of those kind of tweener plays as we see Matt Carpenter with that 11-game hitting streak that he keeps alive with that double that he just had in his last at bat. That fielder looking like he almost slipped there. You get in between sometimes of whether or not you want to flip that ball to the pitcher or take it yourself, and almost lost his balance, but he does a good job of making this play. Such an in-between. We call it the in-between play when you're practicing it in spring training, and his feet almost came out from under him. But anytime you can take it as a first baseman, that is always the preference, right? One less throw, one less opportunity for an error, or as we saw with Carlos Martinez earlier today, missing the base. So good job by Prince Fielder.
2 outs and Carpenter at third base for Matt Holliday. Holliday, the former batting champ, speaking of the Rockies back in 2007 with Colorado. Now in his 13th season and a career .305 hitter. What has turned out to be a very lopsided trade many years ago by the Cardinals, getting Holliday from Oakland. If you take a look and you start things in the 7th inning or later, the best run differential in baseball, +64, significantly better than Baltimore.
Certainly a sign of a good team, one that can win late. It's also a credit to your bullpen and how well they're preventing runs late in the game.
Now Ramos is testing the depths of the radar gun here today. We've seen 68. We just saw 67.
That is the definition of a slow curveball.
The 1-2. Soft pop up and towards no man's land. Odor making sure Chu keeps his distance. And that'll end the bottom of the 7th inning. Carpenter stranded 90 feet from home. A gorgeous day inside Busch Stadium. summer events back-to-back. The T-Mobile Home Run Derby on ESPN July 11th and at 8 p.m. Eastern. And the very next night, don't miss baseball's biggest stars at the 87th All-Star Game presented by MasterCard, July 12th on Fox. Coverage begins at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A couple of big nights coming up not too far from now as Zumwano takes over on the mound for the Cardinals. He will replace Carlos Martinez, and Tommy Pham, who we saw pinch hit for Martinez, stays in the game and replaces Holiday in left. O has been tremendous for the Cardinals this year, especially that devastating slider that we've seen so many times this season.
Well, he's come in, and this is a guy that, of course, comes from Korea. Dominated over there, but maybe the best nicknames in all of baseball. Stone Buddha is one, if you believe Baseball Reference. I don't know if anybody actually calls him that. The Final Boss, which is great for a closer or a former closer, now setting up here in St. Louis. But his first year here in the States in MLB at 33 years old has been absolutely dominant.
His interpreter Eugene getting some FaceTime today.
Well, anytime you're in a situation where you have a translator and a guy like O goes in the game, that means the translator now is in the game and has to sit right next to the manager and be ready for a potential visit. I think his heart rate probably goes up just as much as O's does as he enters the game in a tight situation. You see it right there and how big that slider is. But on a 2-1 count, fastball count, Robinson Chirinos loading up, and that ball finishes a ball, but the sweep on it is really unbelievable. Very, very difficult for right-handed hitters to lay off.
Chirinos leading off the top of the 8th. And you mentioned his time overseas as a closer. 7 seasons of at least 35 saves. And 2 years in Japan against better competition. 80 saves combined. A tick right back to the glove of Molina for out number 1.
And really good execution here from O, because he goes that slider in the 2-1 count, and so now that gets in the back of a hitter's mind, and he comes back with 2 fastballs at 92 and 93. That is not overpowering by major league standards these days coming out of the bullpen, but because of the slider, because you have to have that in the back of your mind, a good located fastball even in the low 90s is going to fool a guy. And you see right here the last one to finish off the at-bat kind of finishes up over the plate, not perfectly located, but because of that slider becomes so much more effective.
Mitch Moreland will pinch hit in the number 9 spot. Looks at a first pitch strike. Now Moreland, who is the everyday first baseman for Texas, has had some days off, at least defensively. And his fielder has been at first base each of the last 3 days. Sounds like Moreland will start tomorrow in the finale.
It's really been impressive about O. Again, an older guy at 33 years old. Comes over here, you mentioned all the time in Korea, then 2 years in Japan. His 12.2 strikeout rate that he has right now in Major League Baseball entering this game is the highest that he has had since 2012. And so to see not a career high, but one of the highest he has seen in a long time against better competition makes it all the more impressive. The Cardinals did an excellent job scouting him, getting him to come here, and he's really been a bargain as well. It's a 1-year deal for $2.5 million. That's it.
Well, incredible too when you consider he's a righty who has been dominating facing lefties. Only pitchers this year that have held lefty hitters to a lower average. You're talking about Kershaw, Bumgarner, Danny Salazar, and then O. Good company to say the least.
And a lot of that will have to do with the split finger that he throws as well. Throw it about 10% of the time, so not a pitch that he uses nearly as much as his slider, which he throws about 25% of the time. But that's a good neutralizer for left-handed hitters. You can throw that split with good downward action. Moreland hasn't seen it yet. I think they're going to try to go slider in here.
And they tie him up. Moreland helpless. Back-to-back strikeouts from O to begin the 8th.
Molina wants that slider down and in, and that is exactly what he gets. But look at the finish. The break doesn't start too early, but it's big, but it's late break. Mitch Moreland swinging right over the top, which now sets up an at-bat that a lot of people in Korea will be very interested in watching right now.
And a first pitch strike.
We see Shin-Soo Choo, of course, never played professionally in Korea. He was signed as an amateur. Of course, played all those years in Asia. But these guys played against each other in high school. They are the same age, which is a big deal in Korea. And was a superstar as a high school player. Or excuse me, Choo was a superstar. Actually was not. He was a middle infielder. He was an okay player and ultimately went to college and then played all those years in Korea. But two guys of the same age from a country of 50 million, a smaller baseball country, and Choo's got bragging rights, at least today.
And with 2 strikes, no less. Back-to-back strikeouts to begin the inning, but a single up the middle for Choo, his second hit today. That'll bring in Desmond.
And you watch the body language of both of those guys, and they may not act like it's a big deal. This is a big deal. This may be headlines in Korea.
Now they meet in Missouri. Strike 1 to Desmond. Desmond has struck out twice today. He's also drawn a walk, looking for his first hit. The opposite way and dropping a fair ball to the corner. Choo trying to steam it at third base. He'll be held there, and suddenly the Rangers will bring the tying run to the plate. Two pretty quick outs from O to begin the 8th, and then a single and a double by Desmond.
This is a nice job by Desmond on a fastball that is middle in, keeps his hands in, gets the barrel to the ball. Watch his ball come back over a little bit more in the middle of the plate and inside. Good job head down, driving that ball the other way. If O gets in any more trouble here, he's going to go back to that 2-strike at bat that he had against Shin-Soo Choo and his inability to finish him off like we saw him do with the first 2 hitters of this inning.
First extra base hit today from a Rangers batter. Comes here in the 8th. Tying run at the plate of Nomar Mazara. He looks at ball 1. Now these two teams, 2 of the very best in the game with the runners in scoring position. We have documented the success for the Cardinals this year, who were historic 2 years ago in this category. For the Rangers, not bad themselves, 3rd in the game. Two and nothing.
You see that stance by Mazara, such an open stance. So he comes closed again, but that front foot is almost out of the box when he gets set up. But he does a really nice job as he kind of recoils and gets reloaded. But you see that from the center field camera. You see how wide that he actually gets there. Look at that. That foot will come right back almost to even. It is even.
That gets right behind Molina. Choo scores standing. And the Rangers get their first run of the ball game. It comes here with 2 outs at the top of the 8th inning.
And it looked like Yadier Molina just flat out missed this ball. I mean, this is a swing, and I don't think, did that go between his legs?
Went between his legs.
Let's see if he hits him here. Catches the pants of Mazara, and because he swung, I guess it's not a dead ball. So that's not on Molina at all. Again, that just tells you how good that slider is on a 2-0 count.
Tied to the line. Adams can't hold on to it. Another run comes in. Desmond scores from third base. And now the Rangers have the tying run at first and the go-ahead coming up in Adrian Beltre. Well, if Adams could have held on, they would have had a chance to end the inning. It's an error, and here comes Matheny and company.
Well, that's a tough break for O. He gets the ground ball that he wants to Matt Adams, who ultimately ends up kicking that ball. So we see it right here. Good swing by Mazar. Good job by Adams to get there, but does not stick in his glove and pops out, and he ends up, we'll see it here, kicking it with his left foot. In the spirit of Copa America going on right now, but certainly O not too excited about it.
So a run scoring on a wild pitch and another run scoring on an error. "20 comeback wins this season, tied for the second most in baseball. The Rangers have the best record in one-run games this year, and they have the best record this month. They're 12-4 in June. Mazzara at first. Here's Beltre. 2 outs. Beltre after the first pitch and through the left side. Well, with 2 outs, the last 4 Rangers hitters have reached base. A single, a double, an error, and now another single, this time by Beltre. And the tie and run pushed into scoring position.
We'll see here from O. This is a slider, but look at that ball just kind of back up and sit over the middle of the plate. Molina wanted the ball down and away. O was unable to get it there. And Adrian Beltre makes him pay.
That brings in Fielder. Eyes a strike. Now Fielder's base hit in the 4th, if you could believe it, an infield single. They had the shift on. He went the other way. 2 on and 2 out. Off the hands. 0-2. Fielder batting just .199 entering today's game, and he's got a chance here to tie, if not give the Rangers the lead in the 8th. Still nothing at 2.
And Molina now going to go out and talk to O, because it's an 0-2 slider that he wants buried, that he does not want Prince Fielder to be able to get the bat to that ball. See how we do here with any language barrier, maybe potentially. I think O knows exactly what Molina wants. But look at the setup. The same way that he finished off Mitch Moreland, that one catches just a little bit too much of the plate in that 0-2 count. He wants that ball in off the plate, giving Fielder no chance to get to it. Now they got to decide fastball or splitter away, maybe, and try to get Fielder on the swing and a miss.
The 0-2. High towering fly ball out to right field. Piscotty, only thing between him and the ball, the sunshine, he makes the catch. Fielder flies out to right field. The Rangers strand 2, but they get their first 2 runs of the game, and this game suddenly separated by 1. Night in America featuring a trio of divisional battles as the Pirates battle the Cubs, the Braves score off against the Mets, or the Tigers versus the Royals, all at 8 p.m. Eastern on your local Fox stations, or watch it live on Fox Sports Go. Sean Thomas, the new pitcher, the former closer to begin this season, and the closer last year for Texas as well, facing Piscotty to open up the bottom of the 8th. Now this bullpen for the Rangers has undergone some changes this year.
Yeah, and Towelson, part of that, you mentioned how he started out the season as the closer and ran into some struggles, and so now the leverage situations have come down. The Rangers would certainly like to see him get back to where he was, strengthen that bullpen. They're still very strong in the back end. Sam Dyson has done a nice job, and Jake Diekman and Matt Bush has been a great story for this Texas club this year. He is certainly a big impact, but if they can get Towelson going again, that would be a huge boost to this team.
Fires in a strike to make it 3-1.
Ooh.
Leadoff walk to Piscotty. That brings in Matt Adams.
Certainly not what Jeff Bannister wants to see right there with that walk. Your team does a nice job of getting these 2 runs, getting you back in the game, getting you within 1 run, and a leadoff walk never works out particularly well, and maybe, just maybe, he can erase it with the ground ball here.
Big rip and a miss there from Adams, who was just 1 for his last 16. This after a blistering hot month of May. Hit .364 last month, one of the best hitters in the game. That 1 hit in his last 16 at bats, a home run that came off of Doug Fister of the Astros earlier in this homestand. Slicey to make it 0-2. Other changes now for the Rangers bullpen. Tom Wilhelmsen declined an outright assignment to AAA Round Rock, so Wilhelmsen, the hard-throwing righty that the Rangers got this offseason from Seattle, part of the Leones Martin deal. Wilhelmsen now a free agent. Chirinos a throw down to first base.
You mentioned Wilhelmsen. Pretty fascinating to me that he decided to decline that option. He was a guy with less than 5 years of service time. So when you're in that situation, if you want to get your salary, you got to take the option and go to the minor leagues. He declined. He's making $3 million this year. We're about a little under 50% of the way through the season. So you walked away from about $1.8 million to become a free agent. When you're having a bad year as a reliever, that is not money you're going to be able to recoup this year.
You're right, Wilhelmsen, 7 home runs that he had allowed this year, already a career high for a guy that at one point was a closer in Seattle and had some very strong seasons, worth noting. But the walks up for Wilhelmsen, gave up 9 hits in 1 inning not long ago. Now looking for a job. High pop up over towards Beltre. Straddles the line for out number 1.
And Matt Adams did not break his bat on that contact, but he did break it after he popped that ball up, and he was frustrated with himself because that was a fastball that was supposed to be elevated. They're going for the swing and the miss, but instead, as you watch Chirinos right here, he's going to make the call. He wants the fastball, but he wants it up, trying to get that swing and the miss, going for the strikeout, and instead Towelson leaves it over the plate just a little bit too much, and look where it is right there. Not quite as high as you want. Matt Adams slams his bat into the ground, and that one is done.
Piscotty reaching on a leadoff walk. Now here is Peralta, who doubled and scored back in the second. Cardinals trying to hold on to snap a 3-game losing streak. Rangers, meanwhile, winning in last night's game, game 1 of this 3-game series, 1-0 behind Cole Hamels and a solo homer by Rougned Odor. Rangers have won 4 in a row. Best record in the American League. 0-2. And the feeling of this season in St. Louis, CJ, for the Cardinals, different from years past. 100 wins last year to pace all teams. First 100-win season for the Cardinals since the back-to-back 100-win campaigns of 04 and 05. But Mike Matheny and the Cardinals, they have won the division each of the last 3 years, and barring either a massive collapse by the Cubs or an enormous hot streak by the Cardinals, they'll be fighting for a wild card spot this year.
They will. The Cubs certainly seem to be legit. Not a lot of holes at all in that roster. They swiped a couple of players from the St. Louis Cardinals in free agency, and John Lackey and Jason Hayward. And so the Cardinals were going to rely on some of their younger players. And then they got the news that they lost Lance Lynn to Tommy John surgery, and ultimately go out and get Mike Leake. And so it's a little bit of a different feel here in St. Louis, but that does not mean that they cannot get to the postseason. And the struggles at home, extremely surprising. Great place to play. We know about the fan base and the support that they get, but it has not happened for them. Even though they're scoring more runs, it's been that ERA that has been an issue here in St. Louis in 2016.
Another 44,000 strong here today to take in game 2. 1-2 to Peralta.
There's Lance Landon. What a disappointment. This guy has been so consistent, such a steady spot in that rotation, and a guy that not a lot of fanfare surrounding him because the other names that have been here has just kind of been steady Eddie and has gotten it done. That was a big loss for them, and Mike Leake was essentially signed to try to replace Lance Lynn.
Anybody throw more fastballs than Lance Lynn?
Maybe Bartolo Colon. Bartolo Colon is nice. 87, 88%, somewhere in that area, and does it with great precision as well at 43 years old, which is the same age that I am. Make myself feel a little bad about where I am in my life. Thank you, Bartolo. But no, I mean, Lance Lynn was a big loss for this team, and you essentially lost Lance Lynn and John Lackey. One in free agency, one to injury, and they had to try to replace that. And Mike Leake, I love the signing. He got off to a little bit of a slow start, but he's been good in this rotation as well. But the Cardinals pride themselves in good pitching, and you see Mike Leake, if I'm not mistaken, sitting in the middle. Is that Leake in the middle?
Yes.
Tell from here.
It is tough to see around the pole, but yes.
Yeah, with the plastic spikes on, so maybe anticipating a pinch running opportunity.
Peralta down swinging for round number 2.
Good job by Tolleson. They were trying to go in, but still elevating nonetheless, and ball comes back over the middle of the plate. But good life at the end of this fastball. Johnny Peralta could not contain himself as he tries to get to it. Good finish on that one for Tolleson.
Two out, Sam Piscotty at first base. Bring in Yadier Molina. CJ, you were mentioning the loss of Jason Hayward to Chicago. It has been Stephen Piscotty to fill in right field, and if you put the numbers side by side, it's been almost comical how more productive Piscotty has been this season. And for a price tag, let's just say considerably less than $185 or so million.
Definitely less. The only difference, the only thing I think that Jason Hayward does better is the defense is a little bit stronger. We know he's one of the best right fielders in Major League Baseball, but it's a smart move by the St. Louis Cardinals. They have always been an organization that does not act on emotion. Albert Pujols was their own guy, and they just were not going to go that far as the Angels were willing to go to keep one of their guys that they would love to have had in their uniform. And this is an organization that has been smart about that, and it was a great return back in the day when you lost a free agent and received their draft pick in return. That draft pick turned into Michael Wacha, so that was a really smart move by the Cardinals back then. This one is looking like a smart one as well. I think it was probably a no-brainer. It was $184 million that Jason Hayward ended up getting, and that's money the Cardinals did not want to be spending, especially when you look at the year that Jason Hayward is having.
Count stays 1-2 to Molina. Able to renew some contracts with Pujols not coming back. Wainwright on the left, Molina on the right. Wainwright missing last year, or the bulk of it, with the Achilles injury. Cardinals happy to have him back.
And it's the smart play. And we just see it in Major League Baseball. These huge contracts, rarely do they work out, especially toward the end. You get stuck holding a deal that you don't want. There are certainly plenty of those around Major League Baseball. The temptation sometimes is difficult to resist because you know how great a player can be. But if you can spread that money around the way the Cardinals have done, it's the way to do it.
Piscotty taking off the throw to Odor in all kinds of time. And that'll end the bottom of the 8th inning. Trevor Rosenthal, the fire breather, coming out to work the ninth, facing Texas. An all-star last year, Trevor Rosenthal. About as hard throwing a variety as you can find in a major league bullpen. He is on here to close things down in the top of the 9th inning. And he'll face Odor right away to begin things for Texas. Rangers getting a couple of runs in the 8th. That has made this a much closer ball game than it once was. And Rosenthal, who has had his problems in non-save situations, comes in to the thick of a save situation here in the 9th inning.
It's kind of a consistent old adage it seems to have become, but look at that for this year. Closers in non-save situations, sometimes they struggle. That is monumental when you look at those numbers, and it really is all about the focus, all about the energy for these guys. You cannot replicate it in a non-save situation. Sometimes you're just getting your work in and it just doesn't seem to go your way. And for Trevor Rosenthal, the disparity this year has been incredible.
Well, he pitched just a couple of days ago against the Astros here at home and gave up 3 runs, making 2 runs on 3 hits, and recorded just 1 out. Backs up Odor at 96.
Walks have been an issue as well for Trevor Rosenthal this year. We've seen a huge spike in his walk rate. Last year, he got rid of the windup. He went to the stretch exclusively, which I think was a very smart move for a closer, and he got more consistent. But this year, the command has been a little bit of an issue.
Belt high. Rosenthal, the race is on, and Odor beats it. Tie and run aboard for Texas.
Well, you could see this play developing, and knowing that Odor coming out of the left-handed batter's box was going to get down the line pretty quickly. Hits this ball pretty hard, but Matt Adams get caught on the long hop. You see him trying to back up and field that ball at the same time, and Odor is just too quick for Trevor Rosenthal. Wow. Amazing how close that is.
Almost simultaneous. Odor aboard. And the go-ahead run now at the plate in Jurickson Profar. 97 inside. And CJ, for a closer, how critical, or how important rather, is that first out, especially to the first batter that you face?
Well, you love having it, of course, in any inning that you're throwing. Not that you're going to relax a little bit, but what happens is you have so many things in play in a one-run game. Are they going to bunt? Are they going to try to steal? Are they going to try to hit and run? And when you're trying to protect a one-run lead, never fun with a leadoff man.
The slice is well in front of Pham, and now 2 on. Odor pushes into second, and Profar drops a single into left, his second hit today.
And this fastball up and in right here. But first, we're going to go back to the 5th inning.
Here's our Gatorade Frost cool under pressure moment. Desmond able to camp out underneath it. A fastball home. And Wong is out trying to tag. It turned out to be a double play to end the inning.
It was a great double play, and you just wonder what may have happened if Johnny Peralta came to the plate, who was sitting on deck with an opportunity to drive some runs in. But that's a great play by Ian Desmond. You got to give him credit. Great throw on the money. Did not short hop his catcher. Chirinos did a good job of holding on to that ball, and Wong, for whatever reason, unable to slide. Maybe because he saw Chirinos in the lane and was trying to go around him. But certainly a play, and a big one right now in this game, as it's just a 1-run lead in the 9th.
First 2 men reaching against Rosenthal. And now Chirinos already squaring around a bunt.
And this can't be fun. When you have a guy who throws as hard as Trevor Rosenthal does, with the kind of life that he has on that fastball, this is not an automatic. This is not easy. I know sometimes you'll watch baseball and you get frustrated because you bunted as a kid or you bunted in high school and you felt like it wasn't that hard. This is a lot harder than any bunt you've ever attempted in your life.
Ball 1 to each of the last 2 batters now. Trying to drop down his first sack bunt since last July. Odor at second base, Profar at first. An infield single and a single into left. Into third base. Now breaking into second base. Nobody's home.
Well, when you see Chirinos square, a lot of movement is going on in the middle of the infield. So the way that the Cardinals drew it up is that nobody was going to cover second base on a bunt. You watch it here. Watch the second baseman take off. You have your third baseman charging. Now, there could have been a play at third, but there was not going to be time for it. And then Profar heads up, realizing nobody's covering because Matt Carpenter was sliding over to cover first on the potential bunt. And now that bunt is completely out of play, and a big opportunity here for the Rangers.
And that comes right in and gets him, but the bases are loaded. Hit by 97. Now remember, Chirinos spent a big chunk of time with the disabled list after getting hit by a fastball from Garrett Richards.
And that's looking like the exact same spot that Chirinos hurt last time. You see this fastball, he's almost starting to offer at it, and then it's the late run. Catches him right on that right wrist.
Odor the tie-in run now at third base. Well, to give you an idea as to how tough Chirinos is, when he was hit last time by that pitch from Richards, he continued the at-bat despite a visit from the trainer, and he then managed to fly out about 380 feet the opposite way with essentially a fractured forearm before then going on the disabled list.
Now, the Texas Rangers have 3 catchers, so I'm surprised that they would even push this right now with Bobby Wilson and Brian Holiday on the bench.
And now Seager's beginning to warm up. And he has made the call to the bullpen. We're going to see Seagrist. Rosenthal does not record an out. 2 hits and a hit batter. This is a 1-run game. Best winning percentage this year in one-run games, 14-4. As they trail it by a run here in the top of the ninth inning, they have loaded the bases up. Ryan Rua will pinch hit in the number 9 spot for Mitch Moreland, facing Kevin Segrist, the lefty. Tying run at third, the go-ahead at second for the Rangers. And Rua takes inside for ball 1.
You think about trying to work out of a bases loaded, no out situation. Obviously, one of the more difficult things to do for a reliever to come into the situation. Be careful. You try to limit damage as well. You start trying to worry about just keeping that runner at third from scoring, and you could turn this into a big inning.
Odor now at third base, the tying run. Profar the go-ahead at second base. And Chirinos, brutally hit by a 97-mile-an-hour fastball on the wrist, is at first. Rua has crushed lefties this year to the tune of a .404 average. And he's behind now 1-2. Now, for those of you hoping to see NASCAR Xfinity qualifying on FS1 at 7 p.m. Eastern, we will get you to that as soon as this game here in St. Louis comes to a close. Here comes the 1-2.
Rua does a really nice job of getting out of the way of this pitch. That is a tying RBI. Potentially, if that ball clips him. See Segrist how well he has done with runners in scoring position this year, and he's been such a big part of this bullpen now for a couple of seasons. Big left-handed arm.
In the air, shallow. Wong, his first ever start in center field, comes in to make the catch, and everybody holds. Now Segrist, his options were limited as to what could have happened without a run scoring, and we just saw one of the few.
Yeah, the strikeout obviously is ideal, but an infield pop-up or a shallow pop-up is also the way to go. And so now you've gotten yourself in that situation. These are very difficult to get out of, like I said, but you take your time. You take it a batter at a time. The double play is now a possibility for you, but lefty on lefty with Shin-Soo Choo, you're also thinking strikeout and trying to get that swing and miss. But for me, the beginning of this at bat is trying to get him to hit the top half of the ball. If you get ahead and get the 2 strikes, then you're trying to finish him.
Not out of trouble yet. The first pitch to Choo, and he stares at a strike.
See the outfield cheating in just a little bit. It's not a no double situation. This is an opportunity where if you can throw potential tying base runner out and Rougned Odor trying to tag, you want to be able to do that, or also to be able to also steal a little bit of a blooper if that's the case here.
Rangers loaded the bases up with 1 out in the first inning, did not score. And now Choo gets ahead 2-1.
Segrist has been one of these guys that has kind of backward splits. 179 batting average against right-handers, and it's 207, which is still a good number against lefties, but he has allowed 2 home runs to left-handed hitters this year.
Odor the tying run. He's at third. Profar at second. Chirinos at first. The 2-1. And it levels out 2-2. Segrist coming on here to try to clean up a mess and lock down a Cardinals win here in the 9th inning. He has inherited the bases loaded. Got Rua to fly out to shallow center, and now facing the historically on-base machine in Choo. All Rosenthal can do is watch. Full count. No place to put him now.
Almost able to entice Shin-Soo Choo to chase that pitch, but I think what we've seen, the game plan, fastballs away, pretty steady so far up to this point, and with Johnny Peralta in on the third base side, that certainly increases the chances of a ground ball getting through.
Bases full to 3-2, and they'll do it again. Trevor Rosenthal could not record an out. Just stays alive.
And this is incredible. This is a steady diet of fastballs, and Kevin Segras is not the guy that has the big breaking ball. He throws his curveball just 6% of the time. It's not a pitch that he uses a lot. Does not have the slider. He is fastball, changeup predominantly. That's why the numbers are a little bit higher against lefties, but it has been consistent fastballs to a pretty good fastball hitter in Shin-Soo Choo.
Calls time.
You see the fake shakes there. If you picked up on that from Yadi Molina, telling Segras to shake, and there was no signs that were going down, just trying to get in the head of Choo.
There comes the 8th pitch to Choo. And this game is all tied up. Bases loaded walk with 1 out in the 9th inning. It was Odor who reached on the infield single to begin the 9th. He comes all the way around to score station by station.
You see this pitch, and like I said, steady fastballs away. That one, without a doubt, is a ball. You see Molina move his glove and try to bring it back, which also tells you that that ball is off the plate.
Ball went to Desmond. Only the 2nd walk drawn today by a Rangers hitter, and it ties the game here in the 9th inning. And now the Rangers in prime position to take the lead with their RBI machine, Desmond, at the plate. Adams running out of room and a foul ball. Now Choo, the man who seems to have been born with a 3-2 count, ends up drawing the walk. As now Jake Diekman begins to stir. Hard throwing lefty in the Rangers bullpen. Desmond ahead 2-1.
And when we have seen Segras try to go away from right-handers, arm side fastballs, he's cut those across. We saw him almost hit Ryan Ruhr before, so not feeling as good on that side. Into righties, away from lefties, he's been a lot more consistent. He's trying to go away though right now. Fastball has not been where he wants it.
The 2-1 to Desmond. Line drive, hard hit. Van having a race back, and he's able to make the catch. It will be a sacrifice fly, however. Profar scores. And Ian Desmond has given the Rangers a 4-3 lead now with 2 outs in the 9th inning.
And I mentioned the fastballs away, and that's exactly what this pitch was, but no arm side run. This we usually see from lefties, the fastball run away from right-handed hitters, but watch Molina, watch the baseball come back over the plate, much more middle than away, and Ian Desmond puts a good swing on it, almost hit that ball over Tommy Pham's head.
The Rangers lead for the first time with 2 outs in the top of the 9th. Mazzara looks at ball 1.
You go back to the beginning of this inning and thinking about, as we see this play here from Tommy Pham, it's a good job of tracking it down, almost got over his head. That ball was well struck, but going back to the beginning of the inning, the ball that was hit to first, and the tough hop and not getting the out, and then the hit that Profar had did not hit it very hard. Then it was kind of the hit by pitch, and so some circumstances that did not go Trevor Rosenthal's way at all has now cost the St. Louis Cardinals the lead here in the 9th inning.
Three balls, no strikes. Two outs and 2 on. And Mazzara way ahead in the count of 3-0. Taking the whole way, looking at a strike. Now the Rangers were held off the scoreboard by Carlos Martinez for 7 innings. They dipped into the Cardinals bullpen. They got 2 runs in the 8th. They have gotten 2 runs here in the 9th. And they'll call a strike. Mazzara thought that was ball 4.
Some big moments late in this game. The Shin-Soo Choo 2-strike base hit, the Ian Desmond double, but then that error at first base.
Well, Mazzara caught looking. Back-to-back pitches he thought should put him at first base. And he's having a conversation now with Kerwin Danley. Rangers go to the bottom of the 9th inning. Now leading for the first time. Would be playing in the bottom of the 9th inning, but things have changed. The Rangers have taken a 4-3 lead, so suddenly the Cardinals are down to their final 3 outs. And very interesting here, CJ, Jake Diekman is on to close this one out.
Yeah, I don't know if anything's going on with Sam Dyson. He closed out yesterday's game, but only threw 10 pitches, had the day before off. He is their closer. Nothing that we had heard before that. Jake Diekman has done a really nice job. Now, he was warming up when there was a possibility that this game was going to be tied, but a lot of times you'll go ahead and start getting your closer up when you realize you have a chance to take the lead. But for whatever reason, Jeff Bannister has decided not to do that, and he's going with Diekman.
Facing Molina to begin the bottom of the 9th inning, so some changes as you saw defensively for Texas. Wilson behind home, Rua at first base, and Diekman up on the hill. This would be only the 2nd career save for Jake Diekman. His other one did come this year. Came up as a National League pitcher with the Phillies.
He's got great stuff, and splits have really not been an issue for him. 120 against lefties, 159 against righties. I mean, he has dominated both lefties and righties this year, and he has been so much better since he has gotten over here. He's always been good, he's always had great stuff, but he has taken the next step ever since he has gotten to the Texas Rangers. Came over in a trade last year, part of that Hamels deal, if memory serves, and he's lowered his walk rate by better than 2 per 9. That's not an easy thing to do, and I asked Jeff Bannister about it. He said essentially what has gone on with him, he said he feels like a little bit more consistency in the mechanics, but they're playing more meaningful games here in Texas than they were in Philadelphia, and that has really helped him to kind of dial it in a little bit more.
Molina goes around, does not like the call by today's home plate umpire Kerwin Danley. Molina having a few words And the Cardinals now down to their final 2 outs.
I'll tell you what, I think Molina may have a case here, because this certainly did not look like a strike on the pitch. That ball is below the zone, but he is saying, Kerwin Dantley is, as you see him point to the barrel, he's telling us that Molina went around. Actually, from that view, I think we are going to see that come around a little bit. Yeah, it's a pretty good call. Tough one to make for a home plate umpire, but that was the right call.
Strike 1 to Diaz. Now, by and large, Diekman has been nails this year for Texas. On for the save here in the 9th inning. 0-2. Undefeated, 33-0. Mike Matheny and the Cardinals been leading after 8. 1-19 when trailing after 8.
That's incredible. And you think about what we saw here today, just some unlikely things. Giving up 2 runs. Trevor Rosenthal, who has been absolute nails in save situations. We showed it before the inning started. A 0.64 ERA, struggled, did not get a batter out, allowed 2 singles. And then the hit by pitch to load the bases is taken out of the game. Very unusual set of circumstances here for the St. Louis Cardinals since the 8th inning.
1-2.
Credit to Texas Rangers as well, with Odor hustling on that infield ground ball that he ends up beating out and beating Trevor Rosenthal to the bag. And obviously this game is not over yet, but a couple of big moments late here for both teams.
Comes inside at 95. Diaz batting .306, the top rookie hitter in baseball. Does have 8 home runs. Count pushes full. Diekman facing the bottom third of the Cardinals order. Struck out Molina, now facing Diaz. Pham is on deck. Just foul beyond third.
And that could be part of the reason, assuming that there's nothing wrong with Sam Dyson. You have 7, 8, 9. Tommy Pham now in the 9-hole here for the Cardinals, and Jeff Bannister showing some confidence in Jake Diekman. And if he does get in any trouble, he's got a couple lefties. Certainly Matt Carpenter, a tough out. Colton Wong right now in the 2-hole, but that's 2 lefties that you feel pretty good about Jake Diekman going up against, and maybe he just wants to give Diekman this opportunity.
Now again to third base, still 3-2. Pitch number 9 coming up. The Cardinals got a run of the second to take an early 1-0 lead. They dropped 2 runs on the Rangers in the 5th. Everything changed with 2 runs in the 8th, 2 runs in the 9th from Texas. They give the Rangers now a 1-run lead, and Diekman with 2 outs to go. The 3-2, tying him up, gets him swinging at 95. Back-to-back strikeouts by Diekman.
He's got the great fastball. It's explosive, and in a 3-2 count, he's not going to mess around. This ball's middle. It's down a little bit. It's in the strike zone. Goes right at Diaz, and he crossfires as you see him throwing across his body, and that ball is just right by Diaz. It's actually a 2-seam fastball. Doesn't have a ton of movement on it. That's just power versus power right there, and Diekman comes out the winner.
Last hope, Tommy Pham for the Cardinals. And strike 1. Diekman just 1 out away from what would be only his 2nd career Major League save. Levels out, 1 ball and 1 strike. Needless to say, this is a much different look for Pham than when he was facing Cesar Ramos and struck out in a 68-mile-an-hour curveball his last at bat.
It's a little bit of a different kind of lefty here in Jake Diekman.
balls and 1 strike. Only Pham's second game in the big leagues this year. Just got recalled today with Randall Grichuk being optioned down to AAA. And he is the Cardinals' last hope. Came inside, 2-2.
You're sitting down in AAA trying to get back to the big leagues, waiting for your opportunity. Tommy Pham gets it. And as you mentioned, coming off the bench, pinch hits in the 7th inning, stays in the game, and now potentially trying to at least win it here or become the tying run on base against a very tough lefty in Jake Diekman.
Bobby Wilson, the new catcher. 2 outs and nobody on. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Diekman a chance to strike out the side in order here in the bottom of the 9th inning. His 2-2 and a full count.
Tommy Pham can be pretty confident that he is going to get a fastball here. We've seen it from Diekman. You sit on it, you look for it middle, and you go ahead and let it fly if it's there.
Pham the tie-in run, the 3-2 pitch, and it's fouled again. Eighth pitch of the at-bat coming up, the 21st from Diekman, facing only his 3rd hitter. Here we go. We'll do it again. The 3-2 and play, and a snare by Rua at first base to end the game. Last night it was Odor at second with a defensive gem to end it for the Rangers. Today it is Rua off the bench, and with that, the second